It's Thursday night, and everybody's asking the same question they ask each and every week, and that question is, hey, did you see this one?
No one told me.
Hello and welcome to Hey, Did You See This One? Michael, you broke the number one rule of the intro portion.
It's probably because he saw me dancing and was like, I don't hear anything.
For some reason, at some point, I can't even hear the music anymore. So you were fine to say words. It's cool. It's going to be funny if you can even hear it over our blasting theme music that is way too loud. I don't know how to fix that. At any rate, it is Thursday night, and we're talking hacker movies for June. It's Hack the Planet month here on Hey, Did You See This One? I'm joined, as always, with my co-hosts, my cohorts in movie talking magic. I don't know what I'm saying. It's Kaylin and Steven, and this week we have a very special guest, the owner... I immediately forgot. He runs the Sonar Network here in Toronto, a podcasting network. I would say that it's well known. Would you say that it's well known, Michael?
I would say it's all subjective, but yeah, I think we made a little bit of a name for ourselves here in the Canadian podcast scene. I'd say
you have your podcast. Like, you have a lot of very well known local Toronto comedians as well as people of note from Canada. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is fair to say, and we got some other big stuff coming too. So stay tuned. The old sonarnetwork.com.
Hold off on that because this isn't the plugs portion of the show. This is the intro to the show. I thought you would know how a podcast works since you're the proprietor of a whole network. Okay,
Jason, be kind to the guests, please.
Yeah,
sorry. I've got
welcome. Thanks for joining us.
I will be taking over as host tonight. Thank you, Michael, for joining us. We are talking about a movie you selected. I can't remember if you reached out to me or I reached out to you. It was probably me being like, "You want to be on my show?" And I
was been waiting for years for you to ask me. I don't ask to be on podcasts. I get asked to be on podcasts.
But I'm glad that you said, I think you asked me if we had done Hackers, and I was like, yeah.
You asked me. I think you asked me what movie I hadn't seen for a long time or something like that, and I said Hackers, and you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna do a Hackers month in July, and like this was like, by the way, this was like last November, so he was planning out. June, I guess. It's June now, but yeah. So it's, I gotta say, love the planning, love the foresight. I'm all about planning. My computer has 1 million spreadsheets on it. I'm all about it. Like, kudos to you on the planning.
I will say I'd fully planned on us to be a mega force of podcasting by this time. Also, we have about the same amount of viewers. So sorry we couldn't put you in front of more than 40 people. But it'll live forever. It'll live forever on YouTube. It'll live forever on Twitch. And
when movies become cult classics, like people don't appreciate it, but then they find out about it later. We got that.
They can check through all of our inconsistencies in our stories that we tell all the time.
Yeah.
All the lies.
Or how twisted our opinions become about things.
Yeah. And is it, I heard, is it true that you chose me to be a guest here because Jason and Kaylin are beard buddies, but Steven, with his little bit of stubble, he needed a beard buddy too. So
that's the reason. Yes, Jason informed me about the circumstance of your facial hair last November, and I was like, "Yeah, sign him up. I'm happy to do a Hackers Month.
Maybe not until June, but yeah, sign him up.
I need some time to grow.
Yeah.
That's funny you should say that because me and Kaylin started this thing on Instagram originally, and I was watching the Super Beard Bros, like a spin-off of The Completionists, and I was like, what if we called our fucking podcast The Beard Buddies or something like that? Because I had Blossom Buddies at the time too. It was all just very dumb. I think, hey, did you see this one works much better as a more all-encompassing thing, because sometimes we shave our beards off. Kaylin's been clean-shaven-ish on this show too, so this has been
Going through the things, I've almost had like a different look every
you have
episode.
a different look in like every episode. If you go back to our early stuff, we both have
Well,
like,
especially when we had like months in between or like weeks in between.
yeah, we looked like cavemen during the pandemic times. So anyway,
Awesome.
this is the weekly show. Hey, did you see this one? And now we will go into our first segment, and that first segment is, what's your history with this movie? And if I was professional, I'd have like a little thing that I play here, but I don't. So we're just going to go around and just talk about basically your history with the movie. And I guess we usually talk about our first impressions here, but since you are the guest this week, Michael, why don't you hit us with A, your history with the movie, and B, why you selected it, because we formed a whole month around it. Hack the planet.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the month and what hacker movies you have in store.
Nice.
But why did I select it? What a great question. This movie, let me tell you, this holds a very special place in my heart as a young 15-year-old boy when the movie was released, which is, I guess, dating me. But I was 15 when it came out, and I was like really into like computers and stuff. And this is like, you have to remember, I don't know how old you guys are, but like when this movie came out, internet was like very new, and like it was at the stage where like not everyone had it at their house yet. Only some people had it, and it was like dial up, and it was like this brand new like emerging thing. It was like at a cultural moment that was like, at least for someone like me who was like into computers and into tech at that time, and still am, it was like very exciting. And it was also like, it was the perfect movie for a 15-year-old. But I also saw it in theaters, and it was like, I remember it holding a very special place for me, because it was the first movie that I saw in theaters that had a naked breast in it. An exposed bosom. And it was very exciting for a young 15-year-old boy, because I was like, I just went to see a movie all by myself with my buds, and I get to see boobs. It was like Christmas. It was amazing. And watching it again, I remembered I had this vision in my mind of like Angelina Jolie's boobs, how great and exciting it was. It was like they were barely visible in like on a weird angle for like 1 second on the screen. And I was like, as a child, I was like so excited by this. Titillated, if you will.
Wait till you see Gia.
Oh, I can't wait.
They used to show.
I can't wait till Gia month when I come back.
Just do Gia 4 times.
Yeah.
I remember Gia would be on Showcase, and I would just like keep flipping back to that one scene where she's like taking pictures in front of a chain link fence. I'll never forget it. I think I came of age to that movie. And
sick twisted perverts, the lot of you.
Just a bunch of perverted. I'm sure that you saw the abdominal of a man and were like, I'm just gonna flip back to this abdominal. I don't know what your kinks are.
You see a guy butt in this movie as well.
True.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How old was that kid? Was that allowable?
I'm sure that they were all 30 years old when this movie was made.
Especially
like
when
every single one of them.
Especially when
that kid was definitely the youngest.
He was the only believable as a teenager.
100%.
The rest of them had like 5 o'clock shadow and like looked like they hadn't slept in a couple weeks.
Matthew Lillard did look way younger than I had perceived him to be in this movie, so that was interesting as well. Is that everything you have to say about that, Mr. Mongiardi?
The last thing was, and the reason I think I picked this movie is because this is almost embarrassing for me to even talk about, but I'm going to do it because you so graciously invited me to come on your podcast 6 months in advance, and I'm going to expose my soul to you guys.
Good.
I remember after me and my little buds, my little computer nerd friends, after watching this movie, we were so like taken by it. I remember us saying like hack the planet and like stuff like that, like fucking nerds, and we made our own handles and stuff. And I remember it, and it's like, I'm ashamed to admit it, like that this dumb movie was like so impactful to us as 15-year-olds. But it was just like, for me, like I was just right place, right time. You know, it was like it was everything I needed as a 15-year-old boy, and throw a couple of little nippies in there. Then now we're talking.
Now we're talking.
Now that's a movie.
I was gonna
So-
bring this up more in the body of the episode, but I guess since we're on the subject, watching this movie, I'm going, did people watch this movie like we watched The Matrix a couple years later and just be like, oh my god, this is timeless, this is the peak of computer,
I don't think so.
of what it's
I don't
like?
think so.
There's no crazy kung fu fighting in this movie and going into a computer.
Fair, but like, did people watch this movie and go like, this is it, this is hackers are the coolest motherfuckers, or did people in the know see it and like it in a tongue-in-cheek way, and then people who didn't know anything about computers thought that's what these computer dorks were actually like? Like, what was the perception, if you're age appropriate, watching this movie in this era?
Like, I think there's like a certain level of Hollywood that was like added on top of it, but I know that I know the little bit of the history of this movie, and like a lot of the stuff is based on real stuff. Like that virus with the boat, like that was like a real thing. Breaking in, and then they broke in, and then she shoots the flare gun at the guy and it hits the thing. That was like based on a real event of hackers, whatever. So
Right.
there's like a bunch of stuff that's based on real world stuff, but then there's like the cyberpunk underground hacker rave parties that is just like, the hackers are like covered in Dorito dust and drinking Mountain Dew. Like, this is not
Classic.
that sexy hacker world.
There's no
Locked
hacker
in
in
a
the
motel room.
there's no hacker in the history of hackers that look like Angelina Jolie in this movie.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that.
She pulled off that haircut well, though. I'll give her
Yeah.
It's true. She is still a. Sometimes I find that you go back and watch these old movies, and I'm like, why did I have such a crush on this actor back then? Because I was like a weird, but she's still a beauty. She's still a beauty even back then. All right. Thank you for your history. I appreciate.
What was your handle? What was the handle you created?
Oh, back then when I was 15?
Yeah.
I don't remember which one was mine, but what we had come up with was, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. What we came up with was, so there was the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and they all had names, and I don't remember what they were. It was like war, pestilence, greed, or something. It was like
Horny.
4 things like that. And so I was one of them. I don't remember which one because there's 4 of us.
You were horny.
I was horny. Yeah, I was war, pestilence, horny, and lust.
Yeah.
Yeah, horny and lust, aren't they the same thing?
They're,
No.
they're a little similar, but
No.
I mean,
The
They're
Bible-
slightly different.
The
Yeah.
Bible has 10 chapters on how the horny and lust are not the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lust requires 2 people, whereas horny just requires 1 person.
Yeah. And it's so God said it to
Yeah.
me, and so God said.
Let there be incels
Let there be
across the
incels.
nation.
See, that's the vibe. That's the vibe I get from this. Like, this has a Fight Club ripple, and people take it the wrong way, and then instead
Fight Club nipple?
ripple,
That was Angelina Jolie's nipple. She's not in Fight Club.
well, she
Ripple.
was married to Brad Pitt.
She was.
Oh
married.
my god.
There
I
you
can
go.
see her playing Marla.
It has that ripple of like people take it the wrong way, and then that's how incels become incels, because they're like, we gotta hack the planet, and we're the coolest, and we're superiority complex weirdos, and then we don't need women, and then you fast forward to now, and it's like pickup artists and Andrew Tate, and it's fucking
Yeah.
bad.
It's like that actually energy of like somebody having to constantly one up you and not in like a way that they're trying to connect with you emotionally, but just to prove that they're better than you.
Like, if they remade this movie, they would all just be wearing fedoras and have fucking kiosk katanas and
Are you trying to make fun of my fedora?
no, because you're not a fucking milady dork. You pull it off. You're a fashion guy. You're not like, well, don't.
Yeah. I rewatched one of the Freddy episodes recently, and Kaylin, you tip your hat so many times in that goddamn episode. To be fair, we prompt you to do it several times.
And tipped his hat like so.
Well, Caleb,
Sorry, what did he do? Tip of the hat? Tip of the hat?
tip of the hat, tip of the penis. Nope.
Oh, was it a hat trick?
No, it was
Possibly.
more than that because you did it more than 3 times.
You're making Michael bored, Kaylin. Kaylin,
No, I'm not bored. Sorry, I'm not bored. I was trying to find this on Twitch to see how I looked on Twitch, but I
Oh.
realized I look the same as I look here. So
that's pretty much the same.
sorry, I got distracted. I was not bored. I was very listening.
No, it's just
I was
funny.
very listening.
So we have a kind of a running gag on this show where Steve and Kaylin will sort of kind of bicker a little bit, and it's funny when
Is it a
guests-
gag? It
it's-
just kind
yeah,
of
it's like-
happens.
It's a bit, okay?
Okay.
And I always just sit here like, okay, well, figure it out, boys. When a guest is here, it's even better. I love it. I love seeing it.
Sounds like sarcasm.
I'm never sarcastic. I would never be sarcastic. Kaylin, why don't you hit us with your history and impressions of this film?
Here it comes, coming at ya.
Oh shit!
My first time seeing Hackers. So my first memory of this movie is the cover of it from like a kid in Jumbo Video or whatever, but I never actually saw it. I think so when was it? This weekend or whatever is the first time I saw it, and then I watched it again. I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm glad you guys introduced me to it.
Is that it?
It started off with a bang, but then it kind of
petered out there at the end.
It's lopsided the amount of energy that was in
that. And that's the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
Okay. Steve.
Similar to Kaylin, I've always been familiar with the movie in the fact that it exists as a movie, but I had never actually seen it. I think I've seen chunks of it here and there. I know that Angelina Jolie's look in this specific movie was pirated by a famous comic book artist for, I think, one of the characters that controls earthquakes in the X-Men comics. They just basically like traced over her and like recreated Angelina Jolie from this movie in that comic book.
I was thinking she also looked like T'Pol from
yeah, she's got
Enterprise.
That Vulcan haircut for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was the character in the Deadpool movie who like makes Sonic
Mega
or whatever.
Sonic Teenage.
Mega,
yeah. I think it was like that character, but in the early 2000s, there was a comic book artist that was later figured out to have essentially just like traced all of his comic book covers for years and years. But to me, as somebody who's an illustrator,
Rob
I was like,
Liefeld?
you know what? I get it. I get it. You know how long it takes to draw something, and if you have to draw 30 pictures in 1 month, I'm okay with you looking at a screenshot of Angelina Jolie from Hackers as inspiration. But the first time I saw this movie was today. After watching it, I'm like, you know what? It's exactly what I thought it was going to be. And that's not a cut or anything negative. I do think that it was enjoyable, but I'll leave my sort of like full review as we talk through it. But yeah, it was a fun watch. Ridiculous, I would call it, but it's in a good way.
I agree. For me, it very similar to you guys. I have a bit more of a history with it because I've never seen it all the way through, but it was another one of those, like what we were talking about before with Gia. It was always on Showcase.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say there's nipples in it.
No, I didn't even. The nipple is so brief that I like didn't fucking like I missed it.
It almost didn't register
too.
for me either.
Yeah,
I was like, did I see a boobie there? Hold on.
The thing about this movie is I always had a different perception of what it was because it was sort of a cultural moment movie. I perceived it to be like that. I was only like 10 when it came out, and I perceived it to be like this different thing. I didn't realize it was so campy and ridiculous and just full of like bad TV-esque one-liners, and just they get so many things wrong. They get so many things wrong while also like using so much real jargon that I would come to like if I had seen this back in the 90s, I would be like, I don't know what they're saying. But now I know what they're saying because I'm in that world, like I'm in IT and stuff. And I'm like, I guess you're using the words, but are you using them properly? Like, are you just saying these things to make it sound jargony, you know?
I need more RAM.
Exactly. They're just
it's
saying...
like watching Star Trek and Geordi goes off about a warp core, a coil for, 30 seconds, and then Riker's like, in English, please, or whatever. And then he's just like, we need to get a new battery, basically. Okay.
And I also fully get now that the character from Grandma's Boy, the like bad guy, is fully based off of the Plague character.
I am a robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the Plague
system administrator.
He nailed it, though. He nailed it.
I'm the head of cybersecurity.
Also, that guy played Iggy Ludwig or Iggy Koopa in the Mario movie, and also he's in a million things. But
Fisher Stevens,
he's
in everything.
I know him from being in Brownface in the Short Circuit movies.
Oh yeah, Short Circuit, right?
Yeah,
doing like an Indian accent, right?
Doesn't hold up.
No.
He's been in like every Wes Anderson movie as of late since I think like I think he's in Isle of Dogs might be the first one, but.
I think
he's been in the last three.
I think he also has since not for the Hackers, but since the Hackers movie has won an Oscar, as well as Angelina Jolie, I think too. So a couple Oscar winners in there.
So just in summation, I watched it fully, like half yesterday, half today. I really enjoyed it for like what it is, and I just am left wondering if, like, the question I asked you, Mike, like, how did people receive this movie in 1995? I imagine it was like the dorks liked it because finally it's a movie for us. The adults were like, I guess it's a cool.
It was very much. It was like in the news at the time a lot, and there was like this was also around the time that The Net came out, Sandra Bullock, The Net, as well as like Virtuosity, right? There was like a lot of like these kind of tech thrillers.
Lawnmower Man.
But this was the one that kind of positioned the Hackers as the protagonists, right? It was like they were the good guys, they were the cool guys. And because there was all these stories about how hackers are evil and like the news and stuff, so it was kind of different in that way, at least to me. That's how it felt to me.
Yeah, as Matthew Lillard says at the end, they've been framing all these innocent hackers, and I was like, innocent hackers? I'm pretty sure you're still breaking the law.
Yeah, all they did was break the law repeatedly.
Like
everything
over. You do as a hacker is illegal because you're not
also
allowed to do. You're not
side
allowed
note.
to.
Fisher Stevens, the Academy Award that he won was for Best Documentary in 2010 for The Cove. Remember that horrifying goddamn documentary?
Oh, the killer whale.
About the reef, the coral reef.
Yeah, it's about the horrible, shocking instance of animal abuse for like dolphins and orcas and stuff.
And that
it wasn't for Short Circuit.
I think he got nominated for that, but he lost to Ben Kingsley, also in Brownface, of the same year.
But he did win it the next year for Short Circuit too, which was a big win for the Indian community.
Speaking of virtual reality headsets, they haven't changed. They're still the same.
I had that same thought. I was
stupid.
like, that doesn't look so much different than what PSVR looks like.
Yeah.
Except he had the big thing. He was standing in
the
some
circle
kind of device. Yeah. But
That'd save a lot of flat screen TVs these days if they had that too.
That brings us to the body of the episode. I just do that so we can now just talk about whatever. I agree with the VR headset thing. I don't know. I'm gonna kind of. I'll run down the plot if we don't have anything to talk about, but I think this can be more freeform because it's
freestyle.
It's two plots. It's like two separate movies, basically.
Yeah. It just in a quick plot synopsis is that like this guy, he goes to jail when he's like 10 for hacking a bunch of systems. He doesn't
go to jail.
He goes to 9 years probation. Sorry. He goes to 9 years probation. He's not allowed to touch a computer until his 18th birthday. And essentially the day he turns 18, he's fucking logs right back into that internet and hacks a TV station and meets another hacker, and they have one of the dumbest scenes in a movie I've ever seen where they're fighting over like analog tapes with two analog hands that are taking tapes out. And
you know what? I kind of like that. I thought it was a fun way to show two people hacking that isn't boring. That isn't just two people typing at a computer.
They try to make it exciting. Yeah.
Well, I was like, how do you do that and make it exciting? It's like,
all the quick cuts of like
you have these cuts of the movies that they're trying to play, which is kind of interesting, and then it cuts to the arms fighting over the tapes, and then it cuts to him like writing words so slowly. By the way, I'm like, I can type better than an elite hacker. Hold on, wait a minute.
I also like that. Wasn't it what the TV station was playing was like something really racist.
Yeah.
And then it was like, so it was kind of like, oh, the hackers are the good guys coming in and like trying to, not let this be like televised or whatever.
Yeah. But then they put on Short Circuits 2 with Stephen Fisher and Brownface, and we're like, God damn, what are you doing?
Oh no, what are we doing? I did have kind of one problem, maybe a little plot hole, but maybe it's explainable. But like knowing how fast technology moves, like in 1988, it was moving like 10 times faster, and to think that he hadn't touched a computer from 1988 to 1995, and then on his 18th birthday, he was like already hacking again, seems like completely implausible.
I'll tell you exactly why. This movie takes place in an alternate universe.
Okay.
Where it's the world around us is aesthetically 1995, but for some reason
Well, I think it's supposed to be 1998. I think this movie takes place slightly in the future than when it was released.
Okay. Well,
his crime was in 1988, and it's 10 years later.
It was 7 years later.
Oh, it was 7 years later? Okay.
Yeah, I have that in my notes anyway.
Well, everybody dresses crazy like it's the future, and also the user interfaces for these computers are full motion video, which doesn't even happen now, which is crazy. So it's an alternate universe where
that's for us. So it's exciting.
But it's an
alternate. It would be so boring otherwise.
It's an alternate universe where somehow instead of like a command prompt hacking or PowerShell, it's literally like you go into the fucking Matrix. So that's how I explain.
A worm virus actually looks like little worms eating data.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the effects, they was like, obviously that's Hollywood magic to make hacking seem like not a person with the text on the screen. But some of the effects were like kind of cool. Like there was one where it was like a bird's eye shot of a city.
When he's on the plane, and he's looking over the city,
And then it kind of like dissolves into like computer chips and stuff right at the opening. And I was like, I don't even know how they did that. There was no CG back then. Like it was kind of cool. I was like, this is dope.
It was cool. It was reminiscent of Tron Legacy, which came out years, like I think more than 15 years later.
Yeah, and it came out like 2010 or something.
And I would say that the effect in this movie is almost more impressive in how it was implemented than in Tron Legacy, because everything in Tron Legacy is a computer magic trick that you're just seeing constantly over and over that you almost get fatigued by it, whereas this they kind of use it sparingly, and they mix it together with interesting sets like that server room that Fisher Stevens' character is constantly having to like hold up in or whatever. It looks cool. It doesn't make any sense logically, but I like the way it looks. And I like that the keyboard sounds like like he's using like a digital drum kit every time he types into his computer. I like it. I like that.
I was into that too, and it was suspension of disbelief for sure, because that's like nonsense, but it was like kind of fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I get that.
I think that the logic of like he hasn't touched a computer in 10 years, I think that the implication is that he has been fully using the computer the entire time. He's just been like not letting anybody know, because she finds out that he hooked it up to the phone at one point and she loses her mind, right? So I think the implication is that he's still been doing it. You can't keep this kid away from the internet.
And she said something like, "Oh, do you have it hooked up to the phone again or something?"
Yeah,
so, like
exactly.
Maybe he was like throughout the 7 years he was like doing that all the time. So that's kind of how I explained it in my head. But yeah.
But the fact that she's like "Happy birthday" it makes it very clear that it's like, it's his 18th birthday.
Right on the internet, first thing in the morning, he's hacking a TV station,
and having a Coke.
Having a Coke for breakfast. I've done it.
Oh, the Coke product placement in this movie was real. It was
everywhere. Man, the worst one was in the office room when some lady is standing behind the boss lady and just has her hand right there by her shoulder with the Coke in hand.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was
honestly, we've had this discussion before. I don't give a shit about product placement. It does not.
That
affect
one was
me
bad
at all.
though.
I don't. But it doesn't bother me ever, no matter how intrusive it is. It doesn't bother me, because I'm like, you know what? That should exist in the real world, and if anything, it adds authenticity to the movie that these products exist in the movie.
You kind of sold me on it with that statement, because I used to have kind of an issue with like, ugh. But it does. I think I like it less when you see Let's chips in the background and
like there's a part where they're eating McDonald's fries, and I'm like, I could totally believe that these hackers would grab a bag of McDonald's fries and sit here having a discussion in their Ninja Turtles underground rollerblading bar or whatever.
So we're gonna enter Jason's theory corner real early this episode, because I have a theory corner that so the Ninja Turtles defeat Shredder. The Foot Clan falls, but we're still in New York.
So this rollerblade bar is run by ex-Foot Clan members.
This movie is a spin-off of Ninja Turtles 1. And these guys, they all become hackers a couple of years later, and they just keep that
kids or whatever.
All those kids, they grow up a couple of years, they stay kids, they're now seniors in high school, and they just chill there, and they become hackers, and they sort of want to hack the planet, because they don't want to like bow to one ruler anymore. They want to be their own leaders for themselves, and they start a little gang. where
Nice.
they just Angelina and Jolie is.
I think we should start
leader.
calling it Jason's imagination time.
It's not. This one isn't as concrete a theory as it is an imagination time, but that's my new headcanon.
Imagination. No, I like that though because I had the same sort of like thought process during this movie where I'm like, this is just Ninja Turtles New York. Like I could see like it panning down to the sewers and like ding 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 to the foot like holding TVs and running around. Yeah, for sure. I could see it happening.
Thanks.
I knew we were in for a treat when before he even went into the rave, there was a shot of him rollerblading down the street at night, and I was like, when you're rollerblading at night, you got to be going somewhere cool.
You're a cool guy.
Reason for that.
When everybody's constantly on rollerblades and the bad guy rides a skateboard, but holds on to a limo instead of being inside the limo.
He's cool. That guy's cool.
Completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
He could have stayed in the limo and stuck his hand out, and then he wouldn't have been like in public. He wouldn't have been visible.
Yeah. There is a version of this movie where that guy is made to look like a fool constantly and consistently throughout the whole movie. Because he already is really non-threatening in his behavior when he's alone, and like the only time he's threatening is when he's like, "I'll put your whole family in jail for eternity." It's like, oh, he does have power. But like when he does stuff like that, where he holds on to the limo as it drives away. Doesn't make him look cool or threatening. It makes him look like a fucking douchebag.
Yeah,
that was so ridiculous.
I thought it was cool.
If you just turn up the comedy elements of this movie a little bit and make him seem hammier, that scene, it falls right on its face with hamminess.
I wish that he fell right on his face into like a garbage can pile, like on the skateboard.
Yeah.
Oh God!
That was the nice cherry on top.
And it was just like,
Eugene, are you all right? Don't call me Eugene.
ow, ouchie.
Ow, fell in my keys.
And speaking of hamminess, like Matthew Lillard, he's charismatic as hell. He's watchable. Like he's like you want to watch him, you like him, but like he acts like no one in the real world would behave. He's such a ham.
But he does it in like every movie too. Like well, not every single one, but he's from Shaggy to Scream. He's always just a goofball, right?
Yeah, punk.
But there's something really endearing and likable about it, where it's like he's acting like a goof, and like if he was there in real life, you would probably be giggling. But if it was a serious situation, you'd be like, "All right, man, calm down,
okay, man, enough with this.
We just killed 3 people. We need to chill."
I'll
be right back. It's like it's Scream going through the door backwards.
I want to mention something I really enjoyed. The opening. So this movie, by and large, has a great soundtrack. It has one song by The Prodigy called Voodoo People, which I listened to all day today once I learned the name of this song.
Is that the song from Mortal Kombat, that slow song?
No, that's why I brought this up. I'll talk about that in a second. But the main like hacker theme, the bam, 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 right. That shit has been in internet culture since day one. That has been in memes. It's
because they hacked the system.
They hacked the system.
Prodigy, they're all hackers. They hacked the internet and they made it part of the internet culture from the beginning.
So,
and was that band Rage Against the Machine, or was it just something that sounded exactly like it?
That's what I was gonna say. The same thing. Like this sounds like some rap and roll. Rage Against the Machine. Yeah.
The band in that bar I looked up earlier because I thought it might have been like Living Color or something, but no, they're called like Urban Destroyer or some stupid like 90s weird name.
Also, movie title shout out interruption, 31 minutes and 11 seconds.
Did they say hackers plural?
Yeah.
We're hackers or something like that. But
I forget the specific context, but there was like a hacker prior, but I was like, no, that doesn't count. It's got to have an S.
Perfect. I just wanted to bring the music up because that song that you're talking about at the beginning of this movie is at the very end of the Mortal Kombat movie, and I loved that song as a kid. So when it played at the beginning of this movie, I was like, "Oh man, we're in for a ride!" And
it made me think the movie was over. I'm like, "Why am I listening to this now? Play it at the end."
Like he goes to jail, he goes to probation. They play that song, and then credits. And like, I thought this Hackers movie was had more to it.
He went to jail and he got killed by Sub-Zero. In prison.
Sub-Zero cool.
Oh.
Did any of you guys get the you guys know those piracy vibes at the beginning of like DVDs or whatever?
Yeah.
Did you get that feeling when listening to like or when watching?
I got that feeling the whole movie. The whole movie is shot like that anti-piracy ad from like 2001 or
You wouldn't download a car. I think it has that font in the movie at one point too.
You wouldn't download a car?
Yeah. I would if I
Why
could.
would you
I remember.
download
What the fuck?
If
Are
I
you
could
serious?
3D
Is that
print
possible?
all the parts to a car, I would download a car and build it.
Mhm.
It's a no-brainer.
I actually heard recently that the people who made that ad got sued by the people who made that music because they just used it without permission, which is technically a form of piracy.
No fucking way.
Yeah, that the ad for that anti-piracy was pirating the music that they used.
Nice.
Everything
Pretty funny.
is so stupid.
The definition of Iron Man.
Yeah, the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, the song. That's where I are in my notes. The song from the end of Mortal Kombat, and we talk about the credit sequences in a lot of these episodes, and they range from being just like a black background with a pumpkin, up to like explaining the whole plot of the movie. And this one was pretty good. We get that scene with him in the courtroom, and then it goes right into like kind of what happens.
My first note is I get nauseous when there's an extended sequence that is not filmed in high frame rate and then showed in slow motion. When it's like that shitty slow motion, I'm like, ugh.
Like when the cops are busting into his house. Is that what you're talking about?
At the beginning of the movie, when they're leaving the courtroom, they clearly shot it in 24 frames per second, but they slowed it down because I guess they wanted it to be more dramatic when they started editing. They're like, this is not dramatic enough, so they slowed it down. But because it's shot in 24, it has that really jarring sort of like skipping style of slow motion. And I can handle that when it's like done here and there, like a couple of seconds. But when it's a minute straight of that, I'm like, I can't look. I gotta look away. It's making me feel sick. So yeah, that's my first note for this movie. But they don't do it again throughout. I think they later they do it once when they're arresting. Yeah, for sure. But it's like shorter.
Yeah, but aside from that, it's a perfect movie. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes. After that moment, everything's fine. As soon as he says BLT drive, I went LOL. Funny.
When he was like, it's Mr. Eddie Vedder and the Kawasaki, John Kawasaki.
He's gonna get me to commit Harry Carey.
Yeah. In that opening courtroom scene, I noticed that it's a young Edie Falco.
Yeah.
Is the lawyer, which I was.
Oh no, Lorraine Bracco. Isn't it?
No, it's Edie Falco, wasn't it?
Who are you talking about?
We're gonna have to look it up.
The lawyer.
To the internet.
The internet.
Okay, Google.
I have to hack the planet right now.
No, Lorraine Bracco is the boss lady of the company or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
is that who we're talking about?
No, I'm talking at the very. Edie Falco is only in the movie for like a minute.
Edie Falco was in this movie?
She's the lawyer at the very beginning. Yeah.
What was I doing? Oh, she was the lawyer.
She's in it for so little that IMDb doesn't even have her listed.
Yeah.
She kind of looked like Lorraine a little bit though. I had to because when I rewatched, I was like, wait, is that the same person? That doesn't make any sense.
Lorraine, I recognize she's got that cadence to her voice.
Sopranos, the therapist from Sopranos.
Oh, that
Lorraine
is her.
Bracco.
Yeah,
yeah, as a therapist from Sopranos. But she was like Fisher Stevens' like partner or whatever.
Right,
partner in crime.
Yeah,
that's
doing it.
Oh yeah, they were humping too, if I recall.
Yeah, in his weird bed that looks terrible. Looks like a terrible bed.
It looks like some sort of
I would not hump him in that bed. I'll tell you that.
It seems dangerous.
How did
a lot
you
of
get
sharp
a woman
edges
in that bed? That's what I am confused by. Yeah, it's not mentioning her as in this movie, but that it was clearly her.
Oh, it was Felicity Huffman.
Was it?
Seriously? That was Felicity Huffman?
Yep,
oh wow!
That's who the attorney is. Yep.
So I guess maybe she just looked familiar and they look kind of similar. Wow, Felicity, another Oscar winner in this movie. Movie's loaded up with Oscar winners.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy! So I guess a young. Oh yeah, I can see it. I'm looking at pictures of Felicity Huffman like young. I can see.
That's wild that that's Felicity Huffman with such a small part.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like she was in mostly television stuff around this time, so she was probably just brought on as like a day player. Like, you want to just be in this for 5 seconds?
Yeah.
And it's possible her role might have been larger. This movie seems like there might have been a lot more character dev stuff that like kind of got dropped for cool hacking montages.
Okay, so towards the end of the movie, when there's all the chaos going on, there's a moment where there's just a 30-second screensaver on the screen. I think it was like when it was supposed to be like The Worm, but it was just a screensaver for 30 seconds. And I thought that was a choice. I thought that was an interesting choice to probably pad out the movie. There's a lot of like, let's put in a bunch of interesting things for 95. Let's very computery. Let's make it look computery.
Yeah, but it's also just like a thing where I've said this before in other movies where this kind of like plot device it's very difficult to achieve an exciting sequence when it's just somebody sitting at a computer hacking. And like, you got to have a computer console going bananas. You got to have something weird happening on screen. Like, think about Jurassic Park, one of the most exciting movies ever made. The hacking sequence in that is borderline boring because it's like,
but it's
how do we make this more exciting? I know this. It's a Unix system. Cut to Sam Jackson. I hate this hacker crap. And like, it's just like it's like a little beam of light moving across a bunch of things that look like buildings until she finds one that has the door controls in it. And it's like, you just have to build something visually interesting, unless you do something like The Matrix, where you're able to cut from the code to what it's actually compiling into, which is like Neo and Morpheus fighting or whatever.
I get that. I didn't really perceive that while I was watching the movie, but now that you guys are sort of painting that picture for me, it does. I don't want to look at command prompts, and they do show Laser and Blade do some actual, like, it looks like they're actually hacking at one point, and comparatively I do see how it's...
Are those the two like guys, the TV hackers?
Yeah, the two.
Okay.
The TV hacker.
I wrote them down as hack and slash because I couldn't remember their name.
I think it was Razor and Blade.
Well, I thought it was Razor and Blade, but then I was like looking
later on.
They say Laser and Blade for sure.
Oh, Laser and Blade.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
But I was wrong about Edie Falco, who knows. I have somebody in the chat here, I Keldon, saying it needs more blinking lights and tapes spinning. I
spinning tapes. I mean, there's something charming about a little claw grabbing a tape and pulling it out and putting it into a VCR. There's a sequence in Rogue One, a Star Wars story, where they do something that is similar, where she's having to find like one data disk in like a giant tower of data disks. And I would say equally as satisfying as the little fight that the two claws have over one tape in this movie.
Yeah, I like that.
Like
I was just gonna say, because nowadays it's just that's all digitized, right? So it was a good.
Yeah, it would be a CG claw and another CG claw, but there's something kind of fun about it being tactile.
Yeah.
And real.
And I think like with all of this, like, yes, they had to make it more interesting and more exciting than just someone typing on a screen. And I think like also all of this stuff was like somewhat new, and I think they hadn't quite figured it out yet. And they went really hard on the visuals, because I think they were hyper aware that is like, we have to make this visually interesting in some way. And they just built this whole like fantasy world around hacking, this like cyberpunk underground kind of thing. But I don't know, it did not work for me.
It really reminded me of The Matrix in a lot of ways. It really had like a similar vibe. Obviously, very different stories, but much the way I could see this as an extension of the Turtles universe. I could almost see this as like a prequel to like The Matrix, like early computer people figuring out in the early days before the architect comes along and changes the
before
game.
They wake up. Oh, I thought you meant before they take the red pill or whatever.
This is in The Matrix, and these guys all get red pilled into the Matrix, and that this is actually like Mouse and fucking the rest of the gang. I can't remember. Dozer, yeah.
Cypher. Tank.
Phantom
no,
Freak.
Dozer and Tank are real world people. They were never in the Matrix.
Right.
They don't have plugs.
Phantom Freak is Dozer. Somehow. Yeah. My next note that I skipped over a bunch of notes because we talked about it already, but then I just have when he writes crash override, and then I in caps wrote ha 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 ha. And then this is also, this part of the movie is where we hear for the first time, if you mess with the best, you die like the rest. And that phrase, I've heard
something to do with wrestling.
No, nothing to do with wrestling. In fact, the worst kids in the school would say that shit.
The worst kids. Oh no!
Like the socially awkward, socially inept weirdos. I guess nowadays those kids probably should have been looked at a little bit closer.
Are you talking about like that TikTok of that kid who's like, the alpha doesn't have to listen to the teacher or whatever?
Yeah.
You're like, Jesus Christ, sit down.
The proto incel, like, you know, almost special needs, but it never got.
Didn't catch it in time. They're like, that's too late now.
They're just in Gen Pop, and people just relentlessly bully them, or they become like an alpha bully. So,
well, I mean, the dialogue. I have the same note where the dialogue that they're having back and forth during the hack. It's like so cringy, but it's also accurate to how those like edgelord kind of like supreme authority hacker type people speak now. Like you'll see TikToks and videos of somebody like being like, I've hacked your account and I need you to send me this piece of information or I'll upload your entire hard drive to your whole family or whatever. And then it's like, I am the supreme overlord and you will listen to me. And you're like, yeah, I don't think so. You fucking dope.
And what is all this like stuff? She keeps talking about how this is her turf. Like, what is she hacking the TV station every day? What do you mean turf?
Yeah, she's like
at some point the TV station would have to be like. She's
got a specific grid of New York City that she's attached to, and no one else is allowed in there.
I mean,
I wasn't sure what that meant.
The security.
Is there only one Richard Gill in New York City, like in the phone book or whatever?
I guess so. Seems like a common name. Also, shout out to what's the guy's name from The Wire who plays Gil? Wendell
Pierce.
Wendell Pierce.
Oh my god! And what about how have we not mentioned this? Out of nowhere, Penn Jillette is just
Penn Jillette.
I wrote down Penn Jillette is probably the best choice for like a hacker database security officer, where he's looking at the security monitors of like a museum, but it's just like a database room full of like all these giant computers, and he's just looking at code.
And he's
also wearing stupid little sunglasses that everybody in this fucking movie wears.
His character is what like hackers actually become. Like those like don't leave the dark room, sit in front of like a giant screen. You know, Cheeto dust.
I think he was chosen specifically for
kind
his
of a fat
like
guy
look,
with,
you know.
Ponytails.
Because he's not a hacker in real life. He's a magician.
He's a magic
hacking
man.
your brain.
But I think he was picked for this
hacking
movie
reality.
because Penn and Teller's style of magic is sort of like they hacked magic tricks to make them either funny or they reverse engineer magic or they expose magic. They were like your favorite magician.
I mean, they became that eventually. At this point in his career, he was like in sitcoms and stuff because he was his style of magic was stand-up comedy magic, where it was mostly supposed to be humorous and not necessarily the most impressive thing you've ever seen. But they would still do crazy magic tricks if you go back and look at their stuff from like the 80s and early 90s.
There's a movie that now that I'm thinking about it, we should cover on this show sometime. If maybe we do a Magic Month or something, but is a Penn and Teller movie from the 80s. Yeah, we just get the fucking theme completely wrong and we do Magic Mike that month. Why am I so horny?
Yeah, wait a minute.
I love magic. I'm a big magic nerd. So if you do Magic Month, you gotta bring me back. Get me back. Let me back in, coach.
If we call it Magic Month, people are gonna think we're playing Magic Mike.
Yeah, we just do all four of the Magic Mike movies.
We do Magic Mike 1 and 2, and then we do them both again, but with audio commentary.
And we bring Mike on, and we're like, it's Magic Mike Month.
He's here, and then you do a bunch of close up magic, and we're like, ugh. So my next note is, what the fuck is Dade wearing? Also, what kind of name is Dade? He's wearing a fishing vest on his first day of school.
Like, goes to school.
I have a fishing vest. It's awesome. It's got pockets in it.
And what did someone say?
Yeah,
to him?
I noticed
like, you look
there were pockets on it.
What did he say? You look like something. I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I was too overwhelmed by the fact that he decided to wear a fishing vest to school in New York City on his first day of school in the 90s, 1995. I need to know
a little bit more about the backstory here because I got it's heavily implied that like the parents split up and he's starting at a new school and he's in like his senior year of high school.
Yeah.
But it just so happens that he's going to a school where they all dress crazy. They all dress like crazy.
Well, the
cyberpunk
people that he
weirdos.
hangs out, if you look in the background, not everybody's dressing crazy. They are the ones who dress the craziest.
That's true, but like everybody has, there's like this weird, different alternate universe, like alternate reality style that all the kids have. Because nobody dressed like in the 1995. Everybody loved fucking Nirvana. Everybody dressed like grunge.
Not
people.
Everybody.
Every single person.
Yeah, Jesus. Jason is just thinking back to the people that he was friends with.
Every single person had a plaid shirt tied around their waist, ripped jeans, and a band shirt and a mullet.
Not me.
No, you had a bow
Yeah,
tie.
but
I was wearing rollerblades and a fishing vest.
Yeah, at nighttime. I see what you mean, though. It was like it's kind of like a made up counter, like subculture thing. It's like I don't think that really existed. That there were computer nerds that were like wore all leather and like straps, and
I think it was very heavily influenced by like anime and cyberpunky stuff. Like they're dressed like they're from Akira almost. You know, like the way that everybody is. You know, wearing militaristic style clothing mixed with like super shiny clothes, and everybody's wearing sunglasses.
And like a little bit punk.
And well. Everybody has an unconventional haircut. Like even the person that, like the main character, he has a relatively normal haircut, but it's dyed that sort of like piss yellow. And like you're like, okay, what? No one is dressed normally. Even what's his name? Nikon. When he answers the door and he's just dressed like a Jawa from Star Wars, you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like everyone is weird, right?
Vibes or whatever.
I didn't hear what did you say, Kayla?
Like in regards to like the style or whatever, like in the wardrobe, it kind of felt like post-apocalyptic in that sense, sort of. It's like, you know, put together whatever you can as opposed to you know, whatever around kind of thing.
Instead of Mad Max, we'll call it Bad Max because nobody looks good.
I like the Akira connection. I like that. These guys probably. I'm surprised that there was no references to. It would have been called Japanimation at the time. Let's get that straight. Anime wasn't coined as a term until like 2000. I remember reading old like magazines, like Wizard magazine, and they referred to it as Japanimation, and I was so amazed by it. And then I saw Ninja Scroll, and it blew my mind. These guys definitely loved having movie nights where they'd watch Ghost in the Shell, Akira, Ninja Scroll, old episodes of Dragon Ball, not Z, just regular Dragon Ball.
And they were illegally downloading all of it on the internet because they hacked Japan.
Yeah.
But I mean, even the two guys on
comes with the whole planet, right?
Even the two guys on TV are very like queer coded, is what we would call it now. But back then, it's like let's just make them look odd or strange in terms of like what everyone's used to. Even Nikon is like sort of queer coded to a certain degree. Like everything he wears is like something that I've seen in the late night establishments that I visit. And like just their attitude, some of them, not all of them, but like some of them, like it seems like everybody except for the two main characters are quite sort of like ambiguous in terms of their sexuality, which is I can appreciate for 1995, but it also kind of gets that like weird vibe where you're like, what am I supposed to feel about these people sexually? And then you're like, who cares? They're just all hack the world. Let's get Russian hackers in here. Let's everybody like hold hands and hack this stupid nerd who thinks he's the best. The plague or whatever. Let's get rid of the plague together. I mean, this is about the time in the movie where, you know, they send him up to the roof. He gets rained on, which is a real classic, your first day of school, let's fuck with you kind of move. But he gets back at everybody in a big bad way, which is cool. But
except gives himself away.
Well, he wants to give himself away, Kalen. He's doing it to fuck with everybody. He wants everyone to know that he did it.
Yeah, that was I think one of the, besides the nipples, of course, one of the only scenes I remember from this movie, from having seen it, 25 years ago. Is that right? Oh my God, that's a long
28
time.
years ago, even.
Yeah. Oh my God, I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, I remember thinking that was the coolest thing. He just pulls out an umbrella and puts it up moments before everyone's getting soaked.
Yeah, and I liked that Freak was there and is overjoyed by it because he's like,
it's the coolest thing he's ever.
Well, it's because he realizes like, oh, you are one of us. You're an elite. Yeah.
And he did already. He's like, oh, he already had a good feeling about that guy because he'd seen him already on his computer and like changing his grades or changing his class or whatever. So he was like, oh, this guy's legit. And then he pulls that off and he's like, oh yeah, this is my guy.
This
He's
guy's gonna
elite.
join our crew. He's elite.
We got to give him a handle.
Yeah, during this little segment of the movie, we do get the scene where I kept referring to him as Boy Meets World from then on because he calls him that, but I don't think that sticks. They just refer to him as Joey for most of the
Joey?
movie. Yeah, I think Boy Meets World is a great. It's kind of a in computer classes and in computer books when you're learning about it. The first thing, the example they always use is Hello World. So I thought calling him Hello World or Boy Meets World is relevant to the era. He's got a boyish face, but also it sort of ties into the computer-ness.
Yeah.
It's kind of a long handle, though.
Boy Meets World. They should have called him like Babyface or something.
Seriously, they should have called him Boy World. I'm
Boy.
like, pretty sure there's probably a website called Boy World already.
Don't go.
What about just BMW?
Met.
They probably and that guy too, because he looked so young. It was so alarming that he was always smoking to me. I found that so
he
Always,
was double
uncomfortable.
fisting smokes at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made me like so uneasy, and it just, I guess, because they don't really show smoking in movies anymore. But also, he's a child.
Yeah.
He was like looked like he was 15.
He's
He was
actually
like
15.
smoking all the time.
He looks a lot.
I think
like...
that was meant to sort of like show his insecurity. I think is that like he was trying to like. I think he was also supposed to be younger than them in the high school, right? Like he wasn't in the graduating class like the rest of them were.
Yeah.
And I think that's supposed to be a compensation for him trying to be like, look, guys, I'm older. Look, I'm smoking all the freaking time and drinking coffee all the freaking time.
Like he really wanted to fit in, and he was always like trying to prove that he's as good of a hacker as everyone else and stuff.
Yeah, he creates the entire plot of the movie because of his insecurities.
He looks a lot like the actor who plays young Neil in Scott Pilgrim, and in the whole movie, I'm trying to like, where do I know this guy from? And I don't even know him. He just looks like an actor called Johnny Simmons, who plays young Neil.
He's in Swim Fan. Remember Swim Fan?
Vaguely.
I do.
Vaguely.
He's in a lot of stuff.
That's an obsession movie, right? Where somebody becomes obsessed with somebody else in high
Isn't
school.
Bon Jovi in that movie?
Mr. Bon John Jovi.
Am I thinking the right one? Anyway.
He's also in Bring It On.
Good old
Mr.
good
John Juan John.
Oh, he's in
Jovi.
Flags of Our Father. Okay, that's probably what I know him from the most. And Swim Fan. No, I've never seen Swim Fan. I just remember the trailer and being like, nope.
No.
Seems like a scary movie about someone becoming psychotic for your cock.
Psychotic. Nope. Okay.
Isn't password a common password?
That's what I was gonna. I said that out loud at my screen, and I was like, "Password," and they were like, "Secret."
Yeah. Also, in what world does a 3-letter password fly for anybody?
So that was one of my bigger problems I had with this movie. I don't think that you've been able to put less than 4 digits in for a password ever.
I think. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say I think there's a way that they could have got around that without it just being like, and most people just put God because they're fucking psychopaths or narcissists, and you're like, okay, but why wouldn't you put like God-like or goddess or holier than thou, or you know, like anything like that could be the same definition without it being 3 letters long.
Yeah, I mean, and then sex was also another one, which yeah. But I will say this, I still have an email address right now to this day that I probably signed up for around that time, 94, 95.
Yeah.
And it has a 4-digit password. And Hotmail has not made me change it yet, and I'm just like holding on to it. I mean, I'm going to hold on to it until it gets
It's an artifact.
one day.
Somehow put that into a museum, because that I remember Hotmail specifically having a 4-letter password with no, like, you didn't even need caps back then. You could just have 4.
Oh yeah, there's
whatever.
no like.
I still have a Hotmail account that has the same password from the 90s as well, but back then in certain video games you'd have to put, when you would go into the command on computer, you'd have to put LA and then a certain phrase, and that would activate like a cheat code within the game. And so like all my passwords I would start with LA and then just put like something funny afterwards, and I still have one.
So you were hacking you were hacking the planet back then.
Oh, I was back then hacking.
Giving away your
In
secrets.
the library of my primary school when I was in the 5th grade. Like,
I Keldon in the chat says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is a good one as well. As a classic.
Cordy.
That is a good one. Yeah, it's better than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's actually harder to crack a like people say you should have like random letters and numbers and uppercase, lowercase, and character like symbols, but it's actually harder to if you have like phrases or words or song lyrics. Those are actually supposedly harder to crack. Interestingly, this brings us to a segment I like to call. What would be your handle in this universe? And also, side question: what was your first handle ever? I'll go first. Because I remember vividly loving Final Fantasy VII, and I wanted Cloud as my email, but Cloud was taken obviously because it's not just the character from Final Fantasy; it's also a cumulonimbus thing in the sky. Wow, I can't believe I was able to get that word out. So I was like, I gotta change it up. Cloud 911, and everybody thought because Cloud 911 was sort of like had like a double meaning, they thought I was a genius, but I had to be like, no, it's because I love.
And then 2001 hit, and you're like, oh shit. I gotta
yes,
change this.
yeah, and that's where the Spider Hero thing comes from. The Spider Hero works better. It works for like more video game stuff, and also the 9000 is because I saw everybody changing their handles or their email addresses all the time to have like the current year, and I was like, I never want to have to change that. So it's 2000 now. I think 9000 is enough. So that's and I think that my handle for this like in-universe movie would be something along the lines of like Treble Charger.
Rebel Charger? Oh my god.
Treble Charger. Or like
Treble Charger.
Depth Charge. I'd have like a Transformers fucking style.
Depth Charge.
Death Charge. Depth Charge. Something dumb like that.
Cool.
Michael, why don't you hit us with your first and last?
My first and last, because I'm going to walk into traffic after we record this podcast and end it all. My first one, I think, is so stupid too, but we were kids and whatever. But it was Tripod, because not why you think. There was an old Charlie Sheen movie called The Arrival with the aliens. There's aliens in it.
Oh yeah.
They were like stop motion aliens, and I remember at one point in the movie there was like a 3-legged dog, and he calls it Tripod, and I just thought as a kid I thought that was the funniest joke in the world. So much so that I wanted to name myself after it. Didn't last that long, but that's the first internet handle I remember.
And then Austin Powers 2 came out, and you were like, oh, God, I need to change this.
Yeah. Ooh, better think of something better. My handle, and I had time to think of this even, and I did not take that time. And now I've got to think of it on the fly, and I'm going to call it Demon Wrath. Or Piss Lips.
Piss Lips.
I'll be Piss Lips.
That's Piss Lips. He's the greatest hacker in the Wild West.
Oh my God, we're being hacked. It's by Piss Lips.
Oh,
Piss
no.
Lips. Oh God,
the
shut it
Piss
down.
Lips?
Yeah, the Piss Lips. Oh no, he pulled off the biggest heist in 1998.
Piss Lips. All right.
Piss Lips.
Steve's doing things to his lips, so Steve, you're up.
Because they started to taste like piss after I heard the Piss Lips.
Gonna whip and piss off your
The
lips.
placebo effect.
Effect.
Placebo effect. Sorry.
My first handle, I guess, was a lot of people used to call me H2O when I was a kid. Because when nicknames were becoming big, we were also learning chemistry at the time, like really basic chemistry in like the 4th and 5th grade. So my last name is Waters. So I got H2O. Stephen H2O was my first email.
So your nickname was
my name.
More syllables than the actual name. They could have just said Waters. That's one syllable. H2O is 3.
I know. I think there was something fun about nicknames, I guess, where it wasn't your action. They're like, what's the deal behind that name?
Listen,
That's a good one because it's still your name.
When it comes to nicknames, my friends almost landed on Guido. So I'm glad that they were like, oh, we could just call you Jace, and I'm like, that works better for me. Thank you. Let's not call me Guido. Thank you.
And then when I got to post-secondary school, I went to film school, and I was the only person that would yell action like when we would start a take, and sometimes it would cause people to laugh. And so there were also 2 other Steves in the program that I was doing, so I became known as Action Steve. And I was like, Action Steve, okay, you guys can call me that, I guess. And like for like 2 years my name was Action Steve, and I don't think that I would make my handle Action Steve because it gives away your identity too easily, but I might go with Action Clap, because like when you clap the clapper together, that's like, you clap and then you go action. So maybe Action Clap would be my handle, or Clack. Action Clack. Yeah.
We got Piss Lips. We got Action Clack. We got Depth Charge. And
these do almost all sound like Transformers.
Yeah.
Man, your guys was all cooler than mine.
What's yours?
So as far as handles in real life, online handles, right? Like, so my first email was my name. ICQ was my name. I never got Facebook. PlayStation didn't need it.
You don't have to go through all of them.
No, but
maybe just the most memorable ones.
But my very first handle, like, so when PlayStation 3 was when there was online gaming for me anyway. So that's when I first had an online thing, and it was a killing.
A killing? Like I made a killing?
Kind of like Achilles with an N, but
also I made a killing at the farmer's market this weekend, selling my cucumbers and pumpkins or whatever.
It's a entendre. But so my handle for this universe is Wildcard.
That's fucking perfect.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, it's a transformer, but it's like a pack of cards that turns into a robot made of cards.
I mean, it's no Piss Lips, but it's good.
It's definitely not at the same caliber as Piss Lips at all. It rolls
Piss Lips is also a transformer, but he transforms from a fire hydrant into a large fire hose that just only pumps out sewage water. Oh god, it's Piss Lips.
Oh no, who invited Piss Lips?
Or he transforms into like a businessman who likes to get pissed on or something.
Yeah. Yo, did you see a big pair of sexy lips as the mouth of the end of the fire hose?
Sounds like a Ghostbusters ghost.
Yeah. Ooh la la.
We're Transformers, and a ghost from Ghostbusters hangs out with us.
They probably exist in the same universe with the Ninja Turtles and the Ghostbusters.
The Ninja Turtles as well, yeah. That's incredible. Well, this has been Handles in Hack the Planet Month.
Have you guys ever worn headphones in the shower?
No,
I haven't.
That was so stupid.
Yeah.
There's no way that would work.
No,
there's no way that would work.
You'd need some sort of vacuum sealed bag, and then you wouldn't be able to hear the music.
The bags were visibly filled with water.
They were coming off.
Yeah.
Fun fact: there was a whole other actor that played the role of Joey, but he died in a horrible electrical accident during the filming of that scene.
Yeah, I believe the only scene that remains of the original Joey is his bare asshole.
Yeah, that was a stunt butt.
A couple of bare asses.
The cops try to take away his computer.
I wanted to point out all the hilarious misogyny in this movie, specifically towards Kate.
Nice score for a girl.
Well, that's exactly the part that we're at, and
with his weird voice, his weird British voice doing an American. Nice score for a girl, and you're like, why are you talking like that? And you're like, oh, he's British.
I didn't put that together. Like I do know.
Looks like I'm on top now. And you're like, why is he speaking like he's from like a 1940s radio communique?
I mean, between him being a super genius for hacking and also the way he talks, he kind of came off as like a Asperger's or autism coded character. But nobody was that forward thinking or inclusive in 1995. So
no, it's just because he is a British man doing a bad American accent. That's why it came off that way.
I can't remember if he's a wooden actor as Sick Boy or if he's a better actor when he can actually be British. Like
speaking his own cadence. I also think that it reminded me a little bit of the performance in Dark City from what the fuck's that actor's name? The guy who's in Dark City, who's the main character in Dark City.
Yeah.
He's also doing an American accent, but you can tell they didn't like take the takes enough times because every once in a while the American is not quite right. It also kind of reminded me of the end of that X-Men movie, the one where they're like on the beach with the missiles or whatever, and Magneto is like betraying them, and his Irish accent kind of comes through a little bit, and then it's like you didn't have another take where he didn't just fully go, and now I'm going to destroy y'all the X-Men. Potato. You're like, hold on a minute.
Yeah, he said, but he didn't. It was this potato wasn't even.
But they only got one take, and it was the best one. But he had so many of them. I think when he's talking intimately and quietly with people, he sounds completely fine. But as soon as he's having to be loud or energetic, it comes off as like a radio play. Like, you know, you hear, oh, that gal is my favorite sweetheart or whatever. Like almost everything that he says sounds cartoonish. And I think that's where you're getting that from, Jason.
Yeah. It's off-putting. Quick side note, Durak in the chat says that as soon as we guys started talking about Transformers, an ad for the new Transformers popped up on his screen. So we did that.
We summoned it, yeah.
We made him have to watch War of the Beasts.
Action clap! We need you over here. Fish lips! Come on! What are you doing?
And the action's like...
You called me, guys?
Too much... Oh, God.
Just starts vomiting urine all over everyone.
As long as they have Rat Trap in it, I'll be fine.
Well,
Rat Trap will be there.
I'm sure that... I want the Velociraptor character.
Dinobot?
Yeah.
The only robot that didn't take a second to think of a name for. He's Dinobot. He was like the first one. They're like, well, they're all dinosaurs. Yeah, I don't care.
And one of them's a monkey. One of them's a primate. We'll call him Primeape. Like
what about
Optimus
Megatron's
Prime.
a T-Rex? Yeah, well, he's named Megatron though.
Okay, none of this makes sense. Yeah, the next sort of segment we go through is them in school, and then we just get there's a bunch of random just scenes in this movie that are kind of like don't make sense. And the first one we get is just back at home. The mom's like, "You should unpack," and Dade goes, "Okay," and then that's the scene. Then we go back to the Foot Clan hideout. They're just talking shit. This is when we get the story. This is when sort of the main conceit of the plot starts to begin. Boy Meets World tells a story about he hacks an ATM machine a town over or a state over, and it shoots out $700 just into the street. Boom. And they're all like, you shouldn't, like, we don't really steal money. That's not really what we do, and we especially don't steal from a different state. That's a fucking felony. And also, you can't be doing that if you're just trying to, like, learn hacking.
Yeah, I think the main thing was that because he crossed state lines, it takes it from, like, a regular offense within your own state that they can deal with more municipality-wise. But then, like, if you go across borders, the FBI gets involved and you become, like, a much larger target. And the crime increases, like, tenfold or whatever.
Do you think that if Joey isn't trying to, like, you know, getting good with this crew and doesn't start doing all this crazy shit, like they just have their, you know, their hack Olympics?
He'd be like John Connor from Terminator 2. He'd just be like hacking ATMs and going to the arcade or whatever. Yeah, he's trying to impress them. That's the main. He is also I said it before. He's the reason that the entire plot kicks in, is that he's trying to impress this group of friends because he kind of fucked up. And he has one line that I was like, yeah, that's kind of true. Is he says, like, you guys expect me to know everything, but you don't tell me anything at all. Like, how am I supposed to know what to do and how to do it if you're not willing to tell me, but then you expect me to know how to do it? And he keeps fucking up, and then he does this, which is like the biggest fuck up, because he hacks a hacker and gets hacked himself, and then a hacking frenzy happens. And Hackers begins.
This is the main, like, plot where they're trying to with the Da Vinci Code. Sorry, let me start over.
The Da Vinci Code?
The Da Vinci Code. The Da Vinci virus. I wrote the Da Vinci Code in my notes like so many times because
That's what they should have called it, but I don't know. Maybe the book was already out at that point. I don't know.
The part that I'm confused about is his initial hack where he's in Joey goes into that, like, file system. and he takes the garbage file or part of the
wait a
garbage
minute.
file.
There is a book called Digital Fortress, written by Dan Brown, who wrote the Da Vinci Code. And I'm pretty sure he has a virus in it called the Da Vinci virus. I read this book when I was in university because I got like on a Dan Brown fix where I was like, the Da Vinci Code was all right. Maybe I'll read some of his other books. I want to know when the Digital Fortress came out. Was this movie inspired partially by Digital Fortress?
Did he also write the Clandestine Prophecy or whatever?
He's written a million books. After the Da Vinci Code, he was like, all of it has to be about cults and ancient perverts or whatever.
And then you have Tom Hanks rolling in being like, oh,
God. Rita, bring me a Diet Coke.
So can you guys just sort of explain to me what he was trying to do? Was he just going into to proof of concept?
He was trying to prove to the guys that he could hack the Gibson computer or whatever the fuck it is, and he needed proof that he was there, so he was just taking a garbage file, just whatever. And then that garbage file had the Plague's secret plan of what he was doing, where he had two things going. He had the hack as the smoke screen, and then the worm to get to funnel the money, like in Office Space.
He basically
and Superman 3.
Oh man, Office Space is a hack movie.
He basically stumbled across within a file that should have been nothing, right? It's miscellaneous data, like that's supposed to just be garbage data. He went in there just to be like, I did it, look. But then he accidentally found the big bad guy's secret plan buried under. It's like walking into a dumpster and like going like, I'm gonna steal all this garbage to prove I was in the dump, and then you find like a buried treasure chest.
You find
like,
a dead prostitute with the fingerprints of several elite.
Yeah. Exactly.
What were all the equations floating around? I like.
It's just there
it's
for
movie
fun.
magic. I realized it was for entertainment, but it didn't make any sense.
You didn't try and solve them?
Yeah, you didn't. You
weren't like, these equations look solvable to me.
You're not a physics major.
Tipped his hat like so.
All right. Does anybody have any Jolt Cola stories of their life?
Oh man,
I've never had Jolt Cola.
You know why, Kalen? Because in Halifax, when we were kids, when we were teens, they sold Jolt Cola at one place in Halifax. And do you know what that place was?
Was it the Big G?
Do you remember the candy store in Quimpool? Across from the
Candy Bowl.
Yeah, across from the gas station. Me and my buddy Jake would
go
there.
The Jolt Cola.
We'd go and spend our fucking Friday allowance on Jolt Cola and potato chips.
This is the segment of the show that I call Hallie Facts.
Yeah,
where they just fucking, and it's FACTS.
Facts. Anyway,
that's what I call it.
I was just, Caitlin was like, I've never had it, and I know exactly why. It's because Halifax was a one-horse town, and you guys are from Ontario, where there's multiple horses.
We got horses everywhere.
And Monjo, I don't actually know where you're from originally. Are you from Ontario? Are you from Toronto?
I'm in Ontario, boy.
Okay, so you guys probably just had it next to the Faygo in the stores.
What'd you call me?
Faygo.
That's a hate crime.
Faygo.
Oh.
The soda popularized by the Insane Clown Posse. Another soda I coveted as a child, and I would come here to visit my father, and I'd bring back fucking the flats of it because me and my friends loved ICP and Faygo.
Give me an RC Cola outside of Walmart any day.
It's the same fucking thing. It's the same thing as RC Cola.
What?
Anyway,
It's not like I thought it was like a energy drink, like Red Bull or something.
No, it just
has not that.
It just has crazy flavors like Moon Mist and like different.
But Jolt Cola was basically an energy drink.
Jolt Cola was
before Monster and before Red Bull and stuff. There was Jolt Cola.
Prequel or whatever.
It predates Red Bull.
It was proto, yeah. It was
in North America anyway. I think Red Bull's been around in Europe for quite some time, but
Jolt Cola, yeah, it was like the choice drink of a sleepover party when you were 10 to 13 years old, where you're like, let's play GoldenEye for 6 hours, and you would drink 3 Jolt Colas, and you'd be high as hell
you'd be
off the caffeine,
all weekend.
And then you would just pass out so hard and heavily, and you wouldn't wake up.
Why not just regular Coca-Cola?
Because it doesn't get you there, man.
Jolt Cola has 3 times the caffeine. They even on the can had like a little image of coffee cups, and they would have like different versions, and there'd be all these coffee cups of like how many coffee cups are in this one can of cola.
Yeah.
And it tasted pretty much like a Coca-Cola, but
It had a little bit
got
of like
you.
a burn, an extra burn to it.
Oh
Because of the
yeah,
amount
like
of
in your
caffeine.
nostrils, like
Yeah.
like smoke would be coming out of your ears and your nostrils, like.
But I remember
Play Final Fantasy VII for 8 hours straight.
I remember getting a couple of those. They were more expensive because it was from a specialty candy shop, and then going and playing, like beating Mario Kart, like 100%ing Mario Kart 64, which is like every level with all the characters on every difficulty, even the backwards fucking levels, and just going ham on a Nintendo 64.
Michael, do you have any Jolt Cola tales?
No, it was always kind of in the zeitgeist. Like it was something that would be that like people wanted, but I don't think it was like really, at least when I was a kid, it was like really available anywhere. If I could have found it, I would have had it though.
I mean, I only
didn't
knew
lose
of like two convenience stores that had it, and one of them was near my house, and one of them was near my friend Matt's house, who I think is listening right now, actually.
Hey, Matt.
And we would go and we would get like I think 2 Jolt Colas each and like a bag of chips or whatever, and then we would just there were times where like I would stay at his house for almost the entirety of like March break, and we would just pound Jolt Colas and play video games. And in my head, it's like, oh, you'd have like a sugar hangover the next day, but I'm like, no, we didn't. We would just wake up and be like, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Your like resiliency was so high when you were a kid.
I would stay up till like 3:00 in the morning and watch all my friends drop like flies around me, and I'd just be like sitting there like still playing video games, and then
I remember like a very specific memory of, you remember in Final Fantasy VII there was like the chocobo races, like you could do like the races and bet on the chicken races. We were just like hopped up and we just were like, run them again. We just like kept making these chickens race over and over again.
Interesting that you had the Final Fantasy. I didn't mention Final Fantasy in this episode once, but you, my
Yes,
friend.
you did. You talked about
Oh,
Cloud.
I guess I gotta get shamed
and
for it
that.
all of a sudden.
You shame me
Gee
for it
whiz.
every single time.
Yeah, it's because you bring it up every single time. This is a cherished memory, not a let me just talk about Final Fantasy for 15 minutes for no fucking reason over here.
Durak in the
I got a
chat.
question.
Yeah.
Did they shake with their left hands on purpose?
Oh, I didn't notice, but I bet that scene was just flipped for some reason.
Did they do
There.
what? Shake?
When I think we're getting close to that part
they
when they're
shake
like,
hands?
when Crash and Burn are trying to compete against each other.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why. Yeah, I didn't even
That
notice.
is weird. Maybe
Maybe it's like a hackers thing, right,
One
or
of them was
something, or
left-handed.
some
Maybe
sort
it
of
was just
hacker
wrong.
culture. We shake with the wrong hand because we're on the wrong side of the law.
We smoke
Yeah.
left-handed cigarettes.
oh, where do you buy those?
It could be just a thing, like you said. It could have been just the frame was reversed. Like they filmed it and they're like, "There's something off about it. Let's flip it and see if it looks right." Because sometimes that is literally a thing where like the balance seems off one way
Yeah.
and then you flip it the other way and it looks more appropriate.
Yeah, I know there is like precedent for that. That happens sometimes, but it seems like it would be a pretty big oversight if it's in a scene where people are shaking hands. But who knows?
This does have a thing in it, a reference to the Hacker Manifesto, which I'm pretty sure became a thing on the early internet, and this might have been a reference to that. Remember when the cops are sitting in the car and he's like, "Thou shalt not fucking
right.
hack thine own friends." Or
He also
whatever.
says the word manifesto like it's a word that
manifesto.
like no one ever says. Like,
Yeah.
it's like a pretty normal word.
Get a load
Yeah.
of this guy.
I say that word every day.
Wait, why?
Yeah.
'Cause I got a lot of
I've got a whole
manifestos, okay?
plot going. Don't
Yeah.
worry. You'll hear about it.
I got a lot to get off my chest. Let me just pull a couple of excerpts from my manifesto.
Let me just get this soapbox really quickly.
Yeah. I did want to mention that the ADR, there are a few moments of ADR in this movie, and it
I'm
is
at
like
that
the
point.
most horrendous ADR that I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, it's bad.
When she's going up the stairs and he's like yelling at her, and he's
Yeah.
clearly an ADR, and she's turned away from the camera, so it's obviously ADR. But then when she turns to talk to him, and like it doesn't fit at
The
all.
whole scene is ADR, yeah.
Yeah,
Like the whole
yeah.
that whole moment when they're on the weird escalator bank through this building. I think what it is that they probably had a permit to film in there, but it's so busy that I'm like, this might actually just be you know, like, all right, everybody, there's going to be a filming happening in the lobby. Just do your business and don't look at the cameras. And like everybody's just like moving around doing their everyday shit. So when they were filming it, they couldn't get any of the audio because there's too much like people being like, all right, buy, sell, buy, sell. Blah, blah, blah. It's like they couldn't get any of it actually clean. So they had to ADR everything. But
it'd be almost impossible to get clean audio in that space, like big, empty, cavernous.
Yeah. I mean, you could
like
lav. I mean, now you could do it. I think if you have like, because there's much better microphone technology. But like, yeah, it's such like a cavernous space. But there's ADR that you can barely detect in a lot of movies, and this was just like the most detectable. And it's like she forgot, like she came in to do her ADR, and she's like, what voice did I do again? So she was just like, all right, here's the deal. Yeah. Nobody say nothing about nothing. Like, when did she turn into like a crazy underground gangster?
Soprano.
Yeah.
Like she was working on her audition for The Sopranos that day.
Yeah.
It was like she completely forgot how she spoke in the movie. Or it was like another actor. They just brought in a totally different actor to do it. And they're like, all right, listen to this. I'm just like, all right, you're going to do this or else, Bob.
I wanted to talk a little bit about how I was fighting the whole movie to find out what part of the police or government they were. Eventually they just called them the Secret Service. So I guess they're the CIA or like FBI.
No, they were saying the Secret Service, which is that was confusing. Because
isn't the Secret Service just for the president?
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, unless I don't understand what the Secret Service is, I'm confused.
The other part about it is like these
service is spelled differently.
Oh, cervix.
SCRVUS.
The secret cervix.
The force in which they apprehend people is so over the top that compared to even a regular
disproportionate amount of like violence
they,
to what the crime is.
They doors down and come through your windows with full shotguns aimed at your face. When they arrested
was this Mark Anthony's first movie?
I don't understand.
Probably. He was in it. He was the guy on the park bench.
Oh, that was Mark Anthony.
He was like, yeah, one of the cop secret agent guys or whatever. He's like, it's not corrupted or whatever. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like he was surprised, but I don't think he got a chance to clear his memory card or whatever.
Oh, that's where I recognize him from.
He's your favorite musician.
Yeah, he's my favorite. He's my favorite Spanish guitar guy. I don't know.
Favorite magician.
Oh, he was married to J-Lo. Oh, man, that just filled in so many weird little. I'm going, who the fuck? Why does he look so weird?
So this movie had cameos from a magician and a musician.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Wow. This movie really has it all.
I'm trying to think of like another one that, like a masseuse maybe, the three M's.
They were all sitting on a bed.
I mean, a musician, a magician, and a masseuse all perform different tasks, but they all amaze you in different ways, and they're all pretty amazing when you think.
And with their hands.
One of them is like you're confused. One of them, like auditorily, you're like, wow, this is crazy, and the other one physically, you're like.
So it's like all the senses.
Turning my flesh into butter.
All three senses.
Yeah, all three of them. The three-sensed man.
The classic three senses, as they say.
Those are the main ones.
Sight, hearing, and masseuse.
So it's extremely not legal to use force that way, but it's also not legal for a guy named the Plague to team up with the Secret Service.
Yeah, I think again
invade Dade's house and start throwing idle threats at him.
Well, I don't think that anybody knows he's the Plague except for maybe that one guy, Penn Jillette. Like he doesn't really throw around. Oh wait, no, lots of people call him Plague. Even like the guy,
Plague. Even the girl, even the woman who's like pulling the strings.
Well, I think maybe the implication is that like he used to be a hacker that they like caught and then reformed, right? And they're like, now you're gonna work for us as like a cyber defense mechanism.
I didn't pick that up.
Well, I think he even says that at some point, doesn't he? Like, isn't that
he says something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, his whole deal is like, I used to be like you, and now I work for them, but I'm still doing what you are doing, and I'm just doing it on a grander scale.
Well, they do have a thing where like so nowadays in movies like this, they'll just give them a cell phone, be like, "This is your cell phone to contact me directly." In this, they give them a whole laptop, a really techno-looking laptop, like see-through.
It looks fancy,
case,
yeah. See-through. Like an N64,
where he can like talk to him directly. It's the video.
Yeah. Nowadays, his skateboard would turn into a laptop. It'd be like he'd take it off.
That'd be
like,
crazy.
Unfold and steam would come out.
I don't know why pagers weren't used more in this, but they did do the thing where you can allegedly hack a phone number by like playing a certain frequency into it, which I think is a real thing.
It was, yeah. That was like phone
cool.
phreaking. That
Phone
was like
phreaking.
the original hackers. That's like there was the Captain Crunch, right? There was like some whistle that came in Captain Crunch cereal, like a little whistle, and then people were able to use that to like trick phones into thinking like that they had put money. Because I guess when you put money in, it just plays a certain tone, and then that tone gets interpreted on the other end as like this person put money in. So if you know exactly what to play, you can do it. I mean, you could at that time.
Right.
That's
Good
so
luck finding
awesome,
a
man.
payphone now.
Like the guy from Police Academy. He's on like
Michael
phone,
Winslow.
Michael
phone
Winslow's
sex
like,
lines, and he's like,
I think we
Hey,
still have
big
one
boy.
payphone left in the city here, actually, on Barrington, very close to
Okay.
Bearley's.
I
And
see,
you haven't fucked in it yet?
I see them.
I haven't, but someone is every night.
There's payphones in the subway stations still, I think, because I always see
They
like
still exist, yeah.
I see people screaming into them.
Yeah, I was gonna say I see people arguing with them all the time. Just
Yeah.
with them, like not they're not on the phone, they're just yelling at the phone booth.
And like in the 90s and whatever 80s and before, payphones must have been a huge money generator. And
Yeah.
now, like, what do you think a payphone in the heart of downtown?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I
makes
feel like
per
it
day?
probably costs more money to upkeep it or whatever than you make off of it.
Yeah, that's why the payphones that are left look like they're completely falling apart. Like no
Yeah.
one's keeping them up. Probably
they-
people go to check them once a year.
Yeah. They don't accept coins anymore. You have to put a $50 bill into it to use it.
Yeah.
So the we're fully into the plot at this point, and now everybody has these dreams. I don't want to kick over what you were saying, Jason, because it does seem like there is a disproportionate amount of violence to like the arrest sequences that happen, because almost every single one of them gets arrested at some point, and they're always like their
out of
door-
control.
coming through the windows or breaking a door down and being like, put your fucking hands in your fucking head.
The dream
Get on the couch, you bitch.
when Phantom Freak is like he has a dream, he gets arrested, and then he wakes up, and then they actually arrest him. That was them coming through the window is like so
Yeah.
intense. 'Cause
Also, he says deja vu. That is not deja
That's
vu,
not
by
deja
the way. That's not what that
Deja
means.
vu means.
Yeah.
Wait, is this the scene where Zero Cool gets arrested and then the cops for some reason let the plague talk to him alone?
that's like a little bit before. That's kind of what we were just talking
But
about.
they're
I-
not the cops, I guess. They're like a secret service. Maybe
yeah,
they're just
some
a
secret-
secret, like, non-government
What
operating
it seems like
organization.
is they're the Gestapo corps for this like Uber company.
They're like cyber cops.
They're like corpos.
But there was
Corporate cops.
we skipped over one of the best lines in the movie and the best lines in cinema history. Dare I
Whoa.
say.
Oh my
Such a
gosh.
bold
Hold
statement.
on, we need to write this down in gold
yeah, has
pen.
everyone get their gold pen ready? When he gets threatened by the plague, and then walks away, and then he's like, "Blow me," and then he says, "Thank you." What is that? What was that about?
I
Thank you.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't. Even pick up on
I
that.
absorbed that as well, and I was like, "What?" But then I didn't really think much about it afterwards. But I maybe I should have. I'm like, why did he say thank you?
I didn't understand that at all, and
I thought that as
really
like
thought
a
about
cocky
it.
like thank you, like he's just being like, fuck you, but not saying fuck you. He's saying thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
instead.
yeah.
Oh, maybe it was one of those. Look, we need to keep the PG-13 rating.
Like
and
he might have said
what could we
fuck
do?
you, and then they're like, what if you just say thank you, but say it like you're saying fuck you?
Thank
okay,
you.
okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe he actually wants to suck his dick. Who knows? He is a weird, creepy pervert.
They are all very
Deeply
like,
closeted.
they're all very kind of androgynous. Like,
I don't know if he's
coded.
closeted. He never denies being gay. He says thank you when someone says suck my dick. Maybe
But he
he's-
did sleep with the girl, so maybe he's not necessarily gay. He's
You
bi or
can
something.
be into both very
Yeah, sure.
easily.
Bi or whatever. Yeah, sure.
Especially if you're like a weird like hacker who rides around everywhere on a skateboard and wears fur coats and scarves, silk scarves and vests all the time. I could see him. And he's constantly connected to the internet. He's probably seeing so many dude butts.
Oh yeah.
You
We
never
saw
know.
Joey's for sure.
Yeah,
When
poor
we
Joey.
first see him roll into the like mega frame computer room or whatever on the
That was a
skateboard,
cool
like,
shot. That was cool.
Yeah, he kicks it up and then just throws it away.
I liked how the doors open and he's already rolling and he's like rolling in and they're doing that like classic back pan shot and like all the servers are moving past him. I was like, all right, this is a threatening and good shot. But
Here's
this
the
guy
thing about that
does
shot,
not
though.
match. Like I'm picturing Shredder from Ninja Turtles, and this guy is not Shredder from Ninja Turtles.
Like I was saying earlier, like they could have turned up the hammometer just slightly and made that even be like. I get what you're saying. Like it did look cool, and I was like, "Whoa, how's he?" You don't know he's on a skateboard, right? So he just kind of hovers into the room.
Oh, like how is he getting in here?
How is he doing that? Like but as soon as I realized he was on a skateboard, I was like, "Oh, this is the character. He's one of these types." So, but then they never play him as like they never really play him as a hammy kind of character. But if this, like, he is that character from Grandma's Boy, because like any other character that acts like this in a movie after Hackers is always played as a joke.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so your analogy earlier, where it's like these characters could be, the Matrix characters at some point. Like I picture him being like the Cypher character.
Yeah.
Like if he was to get out, that's what he would become.
I can't believe it.
Right?
The steak tastes like steak.
Yeah, like he would want to get put back in and be like, give me supermodels and butts, just butts everywhere, and millions of dollars and steaks every night. But like, because he's not really in it to defeat these kids. He's not in it to defeat the government. He's literally just in it for himself. Like
he's just trying to do his own plan.
His entire thing, he just wants the money, and he was already committing crimes before. And they just tripped into his plan, and now he's like, well, I got to get rid of these kids, so now I have to create an entire whole scheme to flip oil rigs over top, just to like get the attention away from my money stealing scheme, which is good. It's good enough for what the story is. It's a bunch of hacker kids who are just trying to become hackers, and then they're like, well, we got to get hacking higher and higher and higher, and then eventually they're gonna hit something where they're gonna hit a wall, and that's what the movie is.
I hope you don't screw like you type.
You mean really, really slowly, but sped up visually because we couldn't hire someone who could type faster? Like, it's just hands. You could have got anyone. They didn't also like. It's not like they're typing anything that we're gonna figure out what they're typing. Yeah, like they could have just done like fake typing, and people would have been like, okay, whatever. But instead, they got them to type real stuff, and then just sped the camera up faster and faster. Like, when you see like Data in Star Trek when he's like switching stuff, and it like slowly gets faster and faster, and you're like, okay, they clearly sped up the film. Yeah. That's what they did in this, and it made me laugh every time because it looks absurd. It looks silly.
Yeah,
sorry.
Absolutely.
Visually, it just was like, come on, what are you doing? Come on.
What was that computer class called? ESL or something?
No, that is not.
ECL?
That stands for English as a Second Language, Galen.
Oh. What was the computer class called?
CSL, Computer as a Second Language.
HSL, Hacking as a First Language.
I don't know. We just called it Computer Sciences in my school. I don't know what you called it.
I guess we talked about only a small portion of this movie, and it's almost time to get out of here. So we can talk about the party a little bit. They go to a party at Kate's house. We get introduced to her. Like,
look at that pooper.
Yep. So much misogyny.
Spandex is a privilege, not a right.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
I kind of wanted to talk about the aimlessness of.
It means it was someone wearing spandex who wasn't supposed to be wearing spandex, is what that means.
But it seemed like everyone liked the pooper.
Well, that's what I thought at first. Like, ooh, look at that pooper. But then, yeah.
Oh, I also don't like calling a butt.
Yeah, can we never refer to it as a pooper or a turd cutter? I hate that so much.
Or a
It's so
dumper.
funny though.
Dumper's
A dumper-
better, but
dumper.
not great. Ugh. It's just the weird, like...
It
It's-
removes the hotness from it for sure.
But it's also just that kind of language and that kind of like those super misogynistic moments are so just baked into these 90s movies that like in we watched Event Horizon a couple weeks ago, and it's like that one character who's just like overtly rapey to the one attractive female character, and it's just like, why did they...
But he was also the one attractive male character, so I mean it made sense that they were gonna...
You want something hot and black inside you? Fuck
Yeah.
you. Is that an
How
offer?
about some coffee?
I was
Christ.
talking about the copy.
I was talking about the Gabby. We also get introduced to the her shitty boyfriend who's in like 3 scenes, named like
And then
Curtis.
just disappears unexplained, and she's just suddenly dating a
Yeah.
new guy. with
Well,
no
he's like, you're
explanation.
not getting
Took her
into
high
all that
school, like,
computer
there's-
shit again, are you? And she's like, whatever. And he's like,
This is like efficiency in terms of filmmaking for me, because high school relationships are based on like weekly and like monthly. It's like the people who date for years in high school end up getting married and have kids and be boring.
It
but,
feels
like-
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say it just feels like something was lost or something was cut out, because seemed like they were setting him up to be like the jerk boyfriend who like we're not supposed to not like.
like a
And then
foil.
then he just kind of vanished.
I think he was just supposed to be like the hot dumb guy that she's fucking, and like, you know, there's nothing there, right? Like there could have been a scene where he like tries to fight the hacker in the hallway or something, and then, you know, he hacks the system and he gets like shocked by a
Actually, now
water
that you
fountain or
mention
something,
it,
some shit.
There's no
I don't
like hand-to-hand combat in this whole movie.
No.
Every problem they have is dealt with.
Well,
with
and that
hacking.
goes back to like every time they're hacking, they have to do something interesting visually, or else it's going to be boring, right? Like, think about that last sequence where, you know, they're calling the hackers of the world together to like team up to hack so that they can turn that 5 minutes into, you know, an hour of time collectively. And then they film them in the phone booths, like, yeah,
Rotating,
like fucking spinning, and there's like people walking around them, and it's like, you know, obviously the phone booths are not really spinning. It's just meant to represent the world moving around them while they're so focused that they don't notice it. And like, you know, it's interesting visually, but like, it does feel very sort of like film school logics where they're like, and then we're going to have them in the phone booth spinning around, and there's going to be people walking around, and it'll be good. But like, you know, it works for me visually because it breaks up the monotony of this hack battle. But like at the same time, it doesn't make any fucking sense. And you're like, okay, well, fuck.
I thought the
Cool,
goofiest thing. I thought the goofiest thing in this whole next couple sequences is they all leave the room, and then he goes back and immediately tries to like break into her computer, and then they have this back and forth about like the specs of the computer, and it's comical for the era because it's like, who talks like this? But it's comical for now, 28 years later, because this computer is like primitive compared to like, look what we're doing on our computers right now. Like, I'm running a whole podcast.
That is like probably
with
the
4
most dated
people.
moment of
Yeah.
the whole movie. Where they're like,
like
ooh la la, I bet you it looks crispy in the dark. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
These guys talking about crispy.
So then she challenges him to a hack off, or somebody challenges somebody to a hack off, and it sort of is, if she wins, he becomes her slave, whatever the fuck that he's got to like copy,
Do all the grunt work.
copy,
Do all the mutt work.
decode fucking software, crack
You guys think-
software.
Explained what it meant.
You know when
but
that like Russian hacker comes in at the end with the spiky hair, and she's like, okay, I'll hack the system or whatever. Do you think her name was Hack Off Smirnoff?
Yes.
That would have been a good name.
That's a hack
Or a
off
hacker.
Smirnoff of a joke if you've ever heard one.
Oh my god, Jason.
Sorry, that was funny. Michael,
It's
what were
getting late.
What were you gonna say? Mike, you were about to say-
no, yeah, the slave for a day thing. She explained kind of what that meant, but it wasn't really clear. It was like she said, I don't know.
It's the
but
grunt.
basically, I think the idea was he would be doing grunt work and dumb work that she didn't want to do.
The big one that popped out to me was literally like cracking software, like cracking security on software to, you know, they probably had early torrent sites set up I like to think about all the things that like I was doing in like 1998, 99, and like downloading illegal software and using Kazaa and LimeWire and Napster. Like they were all using, but in 1995 the internet was primarily like message boards and BBS. Like it wasn't, you couldn't like do much besides talk, communicate, and transfer files slowly.
Yeah, BBS's was like, where like I would hang out all the time.
What's BBS?
Just like a bulletin board system, I think, and it would just basically like, you would call a number on your phone, and then only like one person could be connected at a time. So like if someone else was on there, then you just have to wait and keep trying. And then eventually you get in and you can go around and there's files. You can like upload files, you can download files, you can play little games, and you can just hang around and then leave when you're done. And then, and they had like little games that were like, you have to play every day and stuff. And so you had to keep going back and stuff. That was so fun. There is this romanticism about watching this movie of like a simpler time where we could have 4-digit passwords and
go to the BBS
has little
servers
tiny glasses.
Everyone has, Matthew Lillard's glasses, it looked like they had to put an extension because he has like wide set eyes, right? So they had to put like a specialty bar in between his rounded sunglasses.
I miss the days of before sites like Reddit. They're sort of like, they call it the homepage of the internet because it's kind of just like, that's where I go every day to like read stuff. I miss the era of going, like finding out about a new website and going to a website, and then you go into the links of the website and then you find other websites that way. I miss that kind of stuff, and I really, really miss like early chat. Like the first time I ever went into a chat room, fucking blew my mind. It's called World Village, and I would go in there and like lie about my age and stuff.
Ugh. Now the equivalent to that is like going to a TikTok live and commenting while somebody's just talking at 1,400 people, and you're like, this is so stupid.
TikTok lives are weird, man. They range in creepy to fucking just Some
of them are nice though. Like when you find someone painting like Warhammer minis, and you just say like, "Man, this looks cool," and then he's like, "Thanks, man. Thank you for your support."
There's one where someone races Hot Wheels or whatever on a treadmill. That's pretty fun.
There's
another one where a guy peels an egg shell off of the egg, but keeps the membrane intact.
But he never takes that final piece off. It's crazy. Okay, well, we've got to get back on the rails here.
Well, can we just talk about the horny, aimless dreams for 1 second?
Yes, actually, that's a good.
There's so many dream sequences in this movie, and like some of them are completely pointless, right? Like when Freak has a dream, he dreams about getting arrested, and it's like crazy, and then he gets arrested, and it's just as crazy. It would make more sense if his crazy arrest dream was fake, and then he wakes up and it's just like, Mr. Freak, come out. We need to arrest you now. Like, there should be some sort of disconnect between reality and the fantasy of their imaginations, but there isn't. And then, the horny dreams, I suppose, like, to me, they seemed a bit aimless, and it was just like, how do we get some boobies and some sexiness in here? You get the Angelina Jolie one where she comes in and makes out with him, and then you get... You get the other dream where it seems like it's him touching her, and then it pans up and it's him, and he's wearing like the ladies' clothing.
I like that they did the switch.
And then she wakes up in full body comes.
Well, it's her dream, right? Like you're meant to think that it's his dream, and then you wake up and realize that it's her dream. And I liked that, and I think the design of that makes sense because it's just meant to show that they're both thinking about each other in like a romantically charged way, which is good and interesting. But like the other dream sequences, most of them are just like, why did this happen? Like it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. If anybody else has a reason why Freak dreamed about getting arrested and then got arrested, and his actual arrest was maybe more intense than his dream arrest.
Crash and burn, more like lust and love of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Am I right?
Hack and slash, more like show that ass.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. That's
more like Dot and Bob.
And then at the end, I didn't really need the dreams at all, to be honest. And then at the end, there was like some line where he was like, I've been having these weird dreams, and they both said dreams or whatever. And it was just like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know what they really added besides time to the plot.
And then they both wake up and they're both getting out of a phone booth and they're putting sunglasses on, going, "What you say? What you say?"
Yeah.
They're trying to tap into the young adults' hormones.
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Well, it worked for me as 15-year-old boy, seeing all that sexy rubbing.
Yeah.
Just
Also, the dress deal was that, you know, if I win, you wear a dress, and then if I win, so do you.
and she shows him what it is, that it's a fucking
And
like,
it's not
thong.
a dress at all. Yeah, it's like sexy
bra.
red leather lingerie. I mean, not to say that I wouldn't wear it, but like, it's not really. Again, the balance there is off.
The
Maybe assless chaps.
I've
I
got
mean, all chaps are assless, but
I've always
chaps.
been miffed by, so there's the sequence shortly after this. They have the hack off. He kind of wins. Then they're like, let's double or nothing. That's when the dress thing comes up. They're going on a date, but who's wearing the dress? And they now are going to hack Wendell Pierce and sort of ruin his life, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
What?
And then
They get him arrested.
the first thing they do, though, is
perverts calling him.
pretty low level, and that's just get his credit card canceled. And they do a thing that they do in every fucking 80s and 90s movie when somebody's credit card gets canceled. And did this actually happen?
I wrote that down too. Like, do they just cut your card in half in front of you, being like, "You fucking plebe, why are you here?"
In the 1990s, I swear this was a gag in every single thing. I don't know
how often it actually happened, but I mean, we might have to look it up. But because the way that credit card transactions used to work would be like, you have to call the company and be like, this person's making a transfer, is making a transaction. This is their number, whatever. And then I think if they were like supposed to, if they were like, you know, way over their limit and they need to stop, they instruct the people at the store or whatever to destroy the card.
So maybe, yeah, it was a real thing because of the nature.
There was no limits. Like, credit card companies
Well,
were like, no limit.
There were limits
forever.
But you could easily go around making bad transactions before anybody would catch up to you because of the way it worked. Because you used to have that thing, you'd put the card in and go, and then you'd have the transfer that you like at the end of your work week or whatever.
I remember even in 2009, I was working at an EB, and you'd get like a really old credit card from, like, you know, some old woman and be like, "Can I buy a wee fit for my grandson?" She pull out her credit card and it's like got cobwebs on it. And you're like, what the fuck do I do with this thing? And you can't even type the numbers in because there's only like 6 numbers. You had to we had one under the counter, and like I had never used it before, and I was like, I'm so scared that this is just gonna shred, like the whole credit card would be destroyed. I had to be instructed how to use it. But yeah, I always assumed it was a thing like that, where it was like, if you're a criminal and you're running up someone's credit card who has like a high debt number, they could call and be like, "No, if you get a charge on the card, hold the card." But like, hold the card, don't
cut it in front of.
Cut it in half in front of everybody in the restaurant.
Everybody in the
restaurant.
Hear
you. This guy's a fucking asshole.
Yeah,
Can't pay for his spaghetti bolognese.
In front of your date, in front of your hot date.
That's always the gag. It's like in front of the wife or the date to like shame them.
Have you guys ever been hacked before?
Actually,
you guys know what water sports is?
Yes. This had an instance of a word.
Piss lips. How about you?
No, I've had my Gmail account once. Something happened and the password, I guess, was someone hacked the password and then sent a bunch of emails to people, but I was able to get it back, and that was really. And I'm someone who's like pretty careful with passwords, and I have pretty secure passwords. So and I'm just generally careful with computer stuff in general. So I think I haven't really had a lot of bad luck there, but I don't know. What about you guys?
So I have one thing, and this is the way I remember it happening. It was so crazy. I was on like Kazaa or something trying to download movies, and no, it wasn't a movie. It was like I was trying to download music through, like, after Kazaa, like, so I would go back, and Kazaa K++ existed for like a while after that whole thing ended. And like one of the last times I tried to get it and download stuff, I downloaded something that locked my computer down and started playing the Ghostbusters song. And I swear somebody was talking. Well, I swear somebody was talking to me, not like a recording, but they had like somehow managed to activate. I have no idea how this would have worked, but they were like, they were talking to me. It was crazy.
How old were you?
Fuck, I was like 18.
What were they saying?
19 or 20.
Okay.
Like, I wasn't a dumb kid. I was.
No, I thought if you were like 10 and they're like, hello, and you're like, hello, it's like, so you're there, are you? Yeah, I'm here. What do you want? I want all of your information on your computer.
I was in my cubicle at work the other day, and like my mouth like sealed, like it's sealed over, and this guy with these weird shades came in, and he had two dudes that looked exactly like him. So I had to like get out of there, and then the cops came to arrest me, and then this guy made me eat a pill, and then I woke up and I pulled a wire out of my brain.
Eat a pill.
That is how the movie went.
That's exactly
what his name is.
Shoving pills down his throat.
Come on.
You're
Do
going
you
to take
believe?
one of these
Do you
pills.
believe? And he's just like shoving so many red
Take
pills
your
in you.
medicine, Neo.
Take your medicine,
Smashing
Neil.
your face into a mirror. It's like not liquid yet. Right. So the horny dreams seemed aimless, but they had a purpose.
They had a purpose to make everybody horny in the theater at the time.
One thing I did want to say about the keyboard slow typing is like now there's those people, or there's like this one guy on the internet that he has almost like a stenographer's keyboard that he has transformed into like everyday purchase, where you can like put your hand on these two like orbs and just like move your fingers around and create full sentences and speak like as you're speaking. If you learn how to use it, you can basically like talk as fast as you can type, which is
I just want to be able to like
super
think into a computer. That's going to be an innovation one day.
Elon's
Have you ever
working on it.
seen,
Small
have you ever
steps.
Ever seen anyone typing on a Dvorak configuration?
Is that
It's so weird.
Is it like a ball?
No, it's a regular keyboard, but except it's the configuration of the keys is different. Where the
It's
keys
not
you
QWERTY,
use most often, it's not QWERTY. Yeah, so the keys you use most often are in the middle row on the home row. You can look at it online. Just watching, I knew a guy that used to type in that format, and it looks so insane because it just looks like you're only typing on the middle row. And you barely ever go outside of it. Because the only reason the keyboards are set up like this is they're deliberately set up like this, putting keys you use most often apart from each other, so that what are they called? Typewriters wouldn't get jammed. So like they're deliberately made this way to be less efficient, and and it sucks that we're stuck with it still after all this, after all these years. But this is where we are. But
humans are
There's so many. There's like a bunch of 80-year-old women listening right now with horn-rimmed glasses, being like, "I don't think so, sweetheart."
humans are so dumb though. Like I'm surprised that keyboards aren't just in alphabetical order, which is also, I guess, if you think about it,
very hard to type. You'd be like,
if you think about it though, like the alphabet doesn't have to be in any order. It's just
there's no order.
There's
Whatever
no
you want
order.
it to be. As long as you know all the letters.
it's the order where the song sounds best.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
BAZFKLM.
P,
Yeah, elemental P. You're not going to get that with any other configuration.
with
of
any other
letters.
rhyme, yeah.
So we can probably. I think we've talked about most things. I still have
Did we
like.
talk about the fact that at the very beginning of the movie she tricked him by telling him there's a pool on the roof, and then
She didn't even do that. She wasn't even going to. It was the shitty boyfriend.
the other guy was like dealing with it. But then at the end of the movie, in the most on the nose book ending of all time,
I didn't even put
They
that
were-
together.
they were making out on a pool on the roof.
Do you want to go swimming, he says.
They were straight
I
up
made a note of that,
Frenching
too.
up there.
It's
And I
like,
was
do you want to
like,
go
they-
swimming?
Those two actually got
Johnny.
married. Angelina Jolie and that actor married.
Johnny
they were married-
Johnny
fucking
Lee Miller.
yeah.
Yeah, they were married for like 5 years before she married Billy Bob Thornton. And like the way they were kissing at the end of that movie, it was like very tongue heavy, and it was like when I was watching it, I was like, "Whoa, this is like real."
These
kissing.
two have already boinked.
And then I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, okay." They fell in love on this set, and like.
That's why
I think when you look up like the most passionate sort of like scenes in a movie, like a lot of the time they get that sort of recognition because the two actors were already married together or because they would get married soon afterwards. So when people are kissing that hard on screen, you're like, ew, these guys
it starts to wander into the area of pornography a little bit.
In your mind about like, let's just do this.
Let's just fuck right here in front of everybody. And it's like, this scene doesn't call for any nudity or sex. You guys are actually just having coffee on your first date. Let's fuck.
What if we were Frenching?
What if we were French kissing each other's buttholes? In a 96 configuration.
One other thing that I wanted to say is that Plague gives off the energy of a guy who does his own vaccine research and thinks that trans people don't actually exist and they're faking it and are suffering from mental illness.
They use the T slur in this movie, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
at the time, wasn't a slur yet. It was a regular word that people used for trans people.
Yeah, and also like that was like still acceptable until like 2015 even. Like people would still say it as just like an offhand. But doesn't mean it's good. Doesn't mean it's great. It's just, and also it's used as a joke in the movie as well, which is
and it's a little bit like gay panicky, where it's just like, isn't that disgusting?
Could you believe a chick with a dick would call you on the phone and want to nibble on your earlobe?
I want to piss on you, water sports style.
I mean, frankly, I don't want anyone to piss on me. I don't care what gender they are.
Is that what water sports means?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I asked the question earlier.
What did you think it meant?
You thought like they were going to go skiing?
I thought you just
go polo.
Like
water polo?
You listed all these crazy things. Like, let's put some normal in there just because.
They're going to have a fucking water balloon fight?
Yeah.
Like go jet skiing or whatever.
Well, the water balloons, if they're full of piss, then yeah.
It's piss lips grenades are fucking water balloons filled with piss.
What did you think of serial killer's plumber crack after trying to fix the phone?
I thought he was going down on that woman. I thought that at first I was like, what the fuck is this doing in this movie? And then I realized, it was just a fun gag.
It was a little bit much, but at the same time, I feel like that character is doing that on purpose. Like he pulled his pants down on purpose to like walk away and be like, my butt is out.
Definitely. Yeah, he was like just being a goofball.
I had friends like him in high school, and they actually were like that.
She won't think I'm actually down there fixing anything if my ass isn't hanging out. He's method. That's what it is.
The lovable idiot.
What about at the end when they're all on the phones and then Angelina Jolie says, "Use your best viruses." And you're like, yeah.
Well,
obviously.
I'm surprised I never got hacked earlier, because I actually would have these delusions that I was going to like hack, like virus somebody, like send somebody malicious shit. So I would download viruses onto my computer, like that I wouldn't click on. But I'd be so tempted to just be like, I wonder what this does. And when they're all doing their best viruses in that final, that final hack, they're all so comical. Like, they're all so dumb. But, like, that's a lot of viruses were dumb like that. Like I said, mine played, like, the Ghostbusters theme, and a guy was talking, and, my computer froze up, you know?
Well, that's the hacker, right? They're putting their own little twist and personality into their destruction of your personal device or whatever.
Yeah, usually it just deletes the file system.
Hacks, Lorraine's character was like,
well, I liked how it was Cookie Monster and then it was Pac-Man. Like it was clearly meant to be like they're all using their own personal touch, and you're seeing it on screen or whatever, right? Like the guy who used Cookie Monster is not the same guy who used Pac-Man. Like they're doing the same data eating like across the screen. And it's like, yeah, you know, if you were a hacker and that was the way hacking would work, then yeah, sure, why not make that animation, right? If you have that in your power, like what would you use? What would you use as like a devouring of data icon or
I'd have Spider-Man swinging through, like pulling the data off with the
he's
slaps.
Like getting them all. He's in the corner just getting them all quickly.
So they basically basically they save the day with their mini hacks. They have a hack off with the plague. The ships that were going to be overturned with the Da Vinci virus on them. They save the day pretty abruptly. Like, it just, like, a bunch of stuff happens in the middle of the movie, and then this final hack happens, and then everything's fine. It was kind of a weird pacing in that respect for that, in my opinion. Overall, I
don't think they had the budget to show ships like it would have been cool if it cut to the boats and like you could see them.
They tried
slowly.
A couple times. They tried to show the deck.
They showed boat footage, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and
boats,
then they made the noise of like like they made the sound like boats were tipping, but visually it was like those boats are just sitting there.
It's just like a static image. If you guys don't have any more to really, I think that since the nature of this episode was sort of, we jumped all over the place, I think we covered pretty much all of the major plot points. But if before we go into our final thoughts here, do you guys have anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, one thing. So when he's about to go to give the floppy to Spanky Jones or whatever his name is, the plague, he is practicing in the mirror, and then he sucks at it like terribly. He says, "You talking to me?" And then at the end, Spanky Jones, the plague, says, "You talking to me?" Like while he's hacking them, and I'm like, why? Like, why the double reference to?
Because they're both the same.
Also, why do you need so many floppy drives just hidden all over your person? Floppy disks, just
because you can give them fake ones, or I don't know, whatever. But like, I didn't understand the taxi driver like connection. Like, is there a taxi driver connection that I'm not seeing to this movie, other than the fact that it takes place?
They
in New York
both like
City?
the movie. They both like the movie Taxi Driver.
Could be. It might have been what Caleb was saying.
So you think it's just an actual connection between the two of them, that they both just so happen to like that movie enough to be like, "You talking to me over here?"
Or the director really liked it. Like, in Event Horizon, he references like
the director of K-Pax, you mean? Sorry.
K-Pax, the director of K-Pax made Hackers?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I liked K-Pax as a kid. I really liked that movie as a kid. Now I don't like it, especially as a kid, if you catch my drift.
But you love Kevin Spacey. You're a big outspoken Kevin Spacey guy.
Yeah, he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, you used to call him Uncle K-Pax. Back when we were in high school.
Shit. We didn't go to high school together.
Oh, back when we were in young adulthood.
Yeah, I hacked your computer when we were 14. That's how we met. I have one moment that stuck out to me. It was a line in the movie which immediately made me think that Dade had some sort of disability mentally. And they're doing their hacks. She I think it's either before or after she shoots the security guard with the flare, and she falls on top of him, and he goes.
Apparently, that was actually like a real thing that happened.
Well,
wait, did you say that?
Mike
earlier?
said that earlier. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah.
That's how long we've been trapped in this hacker episode. So this is when I thought, and this also starts to spawn my idea that like these hacker types and people that watch these movies age appropriately would end up being Discord mods and Reddit mods. Is when this hot babe falls on top of him, and he goes, if I didn't abide by a strict code of honor, I might take advantage of the situation, erotically, as it were. And then she goes to like, I thought that I started writing this thought out, and I thought they were gonna fuck right there. She pulls out a flashlight, and then she shoots a guy but that line encompasses like the station that these like incel types hold and think they hold, that they're not getting laid because they have the power to get laid at any time, or alternatively they're nice guys and girls don't like nice guys, so naturally all women are whores. Like, that's how they sort of see the world. So that's a moment that was probably misconstrued by a lot of young men that ended up causing them to be milady types. That's my real Jason's Theory Corner.
Jason's Theory Corner this week.
Dun,
it
dun,
got
dun,
real.
dun,
No, that's weird. It's like all around me are familiar faces, worn out places.
Come on. I'm a marriage
I had a
away
bit
from
of-
being an incel, though, so let's be real.
Just one marriage away.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a moment that stood out that I would like to share before we all go away into that abyss. Again related to the disc, when the freak gave the disc, or hid the disc behind the condom machine in the bathroom, and then Angelina Jolie like went in there to retrieve it, and there was just like an entire boy band hanging out in the bathroom, like all leaning up cool against the walls and like sitting on the sink and stuff, and all just staring at her.
That was so off-putting. I thought they were in the wrong place.
Yeah, it was all so weird. And
Why are you in the ladies' room? You're like, listen.
It didn't read like how they wanted it to read. Like it was so weird. Like I don't know. It just felt strange to me, and it was like, it's not that crazy that someone would have like been in a.
Yeah, I think that a lot of those moments are like, they're very comic booky, and again, they're kind of like anime-ish, where like things are off and weird to us as viewers, and we're like, what? why is that happening? And like I don't know, like I can't explain it, right? Like as a viewer of the movie, but I'm like, this movie is the closest thing to like a weird live action anime that I've seen in a long time. And it, again, I brought up Akira earlier. It seems like they watched Akira and they're like, how do we make this but for like, you know, teenagers in the West? Like, let's try. And you know, they did a pretty good job. Like I could see this being an anime, and people being like, have you seen Hackers, the anime?
I really like that idea, actually, especially since we're doing Ghost in the Shell later this month.
Like, that's the spinning phone booths is like something you'd see in an anime, but it would be like drawn, and like the people will be ghosts around it and shit. Like that's
And
some
like
anime stuff right
the
there.
user interfaces being all fucking crazy like that is very
Like
anime.
monsters and stuff flying at you. Like
Yeah.
even when they're sucking away the data at the end, I was like, I hope it gets sucked away, and it did. I was like, it got sucked away. Like I was hoping that would happen. It did.
Or that scene where Matthew Lillard turned into a big monster, big veiny bulbous monster that was as big as a building.
He's like, he started absorbing all the buildings into himself.
Yeah. Do you remember that scene?
I
That,
do.
really-
And he
that
explodes.
reminded me of Akira as
And he
well.
goes,
And he explodes and nukes Tokyo. Yeah. That's
Also, you guys got to watch Paprika.
Yeah, you keep talking about this Paprika show. I'll probably watch it.
my other one thing was old man disguise at the end.
Yeah. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
he gets arrested and then says, I'll never fly this airline again. Like it's their
Yeah.
fault.
He's the proto Karen. He also birthed the Karen movement. From
Yeah.
No, he was just being honest because he was going to jail
'Cause he's
for
going to
life,
jail
so he's
forever.
never going to be able
Right,
to
yeah.
fly again.
It'd be funny
Oh
if you
my
heard
God.
the sound of like handcuffs going on and be like, "You're right, you won't, you fucking pervert."
There's also a
And they
dumb,
rip his weird beard off. Oh god, the
There's a-
glue.
They show that the corporate woman doesn't know anything about when that funnel hack is going on.
She doesn't though.
She doesn't know shit.
Never at any
And-
point does she ever show any kind of inclination that
She
she
just
understands
yells-
what's going on.
So the rabbit comes on the screen and she yells, "Rabbit flu shot! Someone talk to me!" She's just yelling things, and that happens a lot with the people that don't understand the hacking.
Well, somebody says cancer and then brain, and then she's like, "Brain cancer!" Oh god, lady.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that this movie really felt like. You know how? Do you guys ever watch the Tim and Eric show? Did you guys ever watch any of that? You know how they like
Yeah.
try to mimic what it was like watching old public access TV in the 90s. This movie felt like that. That's kind of what they were lampooning. This era of people just saying these
But
weird...
a different type though, a different like.
Well, this is much
version
more
of that, yeah.
earnest and real, and somebody earnestly made this movie.
Well, I mean, it feels a lot like what Kaylin brought up, that you wouldn't download a car commercial like in the form of a full movie. Like that's kind of like the attitude that this movie has, and like towards hackers in that era. And like, you know, you even think of shows like Reboot. I don't know if you guys watched Reboot, but like they had this kind of like the same sort of energy. Like they even had hackers in Reboot, and they would be made up to look like one of these fucking fools, like showing up with a fishing vest and, you know, hover boots on or whatever. And he's like, I'm the surfer. I surf through all the webs of, you know, surfing. And you're like, okay, this is
bud.
getting a little bit much for me.
well, that was...
I got one more thing I wanted to add.
Okay.
when Freak gets arrested and his mom's beating him. He's like, "What are you guys doing? Arrest me already!"
Yeah,
Right.
that was a good one. So after we cover the movie, we do a little segment I like to call Final Thoughts. And we just go around and give our final thoughts. I do a rating out of 5. These guys think that I'm ridiculous for doing that and do an abstract rating. So I've also adopted that. So
he gets to have his cake and eat it too, as I like to say.
Which I'm surprised wasn't a line in
And
this
our
movie.
cake.
Yeah. Michael, if you want to go first, just give us your final thoughts on the movie, your summation.
Also, what went well, what could have been better.
We have a little bit that we added on that's like what went well in the movie and what you could have maybe improved. But I don't want to give you too much homework right now.
Yeah, okay. I didn't come prepared with this, but I will say that my final thoughts are that I expected to come into this movie and like groan at how bad it was, and like it was kind of enjoyable, and if I was able to suspend disbelief enough, and it kind of took me back to it was like a little bit nostalgia was a factor for sure, but like I enjoyed it and I had a lot of fun watching it. It like wasn't bad. It had problems for sure, but like it was super fun for me to watch. So that's what I think. What went well? I'm gonna say what went well was just this depiction of this like weird cyberpunk counter. It reminded me of kind of like the weird underground community that they created for the John Wick movies, where they, as far as I know, they invented this whole idea. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it came from somewhere. I don't know what the inspirations were, but this whole cool underground kind of community of hackers was like kind of a fun idea, and I like that. So whatever, you guys are all going to disagree with me. I don't care. I'm never going to talk to you guys again anyway.
Wait, what? And also, we're not going to disagree
Jesus
with
Christ,
you.
piss lips. I thought we were family.
We were all
I
married
made
at
this
one
lovely
point.
speech about you and everything.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I spoke too soon. Yeah, so I guess that, I think for me that worked well on a level of like, this movie's not going to win an Oscar. Like, that's not what I'm saying.
It's going to win 2 Oscars.
It might win 2 Oscars.
And everybody in it has won an Oscar, apparently. So
yeah, basically.
Give this
Eventually.
movie the EGOT, as they say.
Yeah. So yeah, I think does that answer the questions? Have I answered the questions to your
Yeah.
satisfaction?
Do you have a rating system?
Oh, of course, a rating. I give it I'm gonna say 3.5 ass cracks
Nice.
out of 5 rollerblade wheels. Does that answer?
okay, yeah, no,
fucking
yeah, because
question,
usually there's
Jason?
about 6 to 8 rollerblade wheels. So yeah, I like
Perfect. Excellent.
between 2 feet.
That's great. Yeah, that really puts. You're like, you guys are gonna disagree, but like you took one of the things out of my final thought. So I think we're all gonna have a similar thought on this movie. Steve, why don't you hit us next with your finale?
I think this movie is completely capable and doesn't cook too heavily on making sure that the plot is pushing forward what it needs to be. And it is, almost 2 separate movies, where one movie is the character of Dade, a name I've never heard and probably never will hear again.
Dade, but that's a story for a different time.
Trying to get into this group of friends, and he does, and he succeeds. But while Dade is doing this, there's another character, Joey, who is crossing into the world of crazy hackers. And that movie, I think, is not as strong as the movie of Dade trying to get into the group. I think if Dade was the main character, this is my could have been better. I think if Dade was maybe like a mentor to Joey, or like if there was something more going on there, I think it could have strengthened the plot a little bit and made it more cohesive, because it does, to me, feel like 2 movies that are bandaged together by Joey and his fucking shower headphones and his butt hanging out. Like that's what I think the movie is. And I don't think that they're two bad movies, but I think that they're two episodes of a TV show that have been stapled together by a to be continued. And the to be continued is zooming in on like Joey being like, "Bring me back Lucille," or whatever the fuck his computer was called. He named his computer Lucy. Yeah. That's my what could have been better. What went well is the music was great. Like I think the music the entire time was flowing and encapsulating that 90s sort of like you can go into a cafe, a coffee cafe or an internet cafe and like, you know, that's what it would sound like at the time. That being said, I was like fucking 8 years old when this movie came out or whatever. So I don't know. But you know, Hackers is a movie about a hacker who hacks a hacked protected mainframe and then gets hacked itself. And then now Joey, a hacker, and his friends have to hack the hacker in order to stop a virus from hacking a bunch of ships from being hacked to death. And that's the movie Hackers. So I give this movie half a hack out of a full hack. But sometimes in some professions, half a hack is better than a full hack. So you never know. That's my review of the movie.
Somebody please
it was good.
Make a hack supercut of all the times that we say hacker, and then Steve just starts punching the bag. Hack. All right. Fantastic. Kaylin, why don't you go, and then I'll take us home, buddy. Ace.
You got it. I'm not sure how hacker accurate this movie is.
Accurate?
But
we all said it. We all three said it at the same time.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it just the same. The aesthetic was consistent and suitable and worked for me. I enjoyed it. I'm always a fan of rebellious kids, so that worked for me as well. Definitely, I'd say it's worth a watch, but I'm going to try and add it to my collection when I get a chance. What went well was so our fourth horseman mentioned it earlier at the beginning of the episode when we have the bird's eye view, aerial view of the city, and then it transitions to the computer like motherboard circuits. I really enjoyed that. My even better is Dade's shitty fake bleach blonde hair was terrible.
Yeah.
MPAA.
He should be called Piss Lips, am I right? Or his hairdresser, at least.
MPAA 33564, and I give it a 010001110110111 0111 0100 011 00011 011 01 000 011
You can't say that on
00001
101. Am I right?
Am I right? Was that
was
a
a perfect
reference?
review.
Was that a reference to Reboot, or was that? Did you look up that binary?
It was inspired by Reboot, but that actually translates to something, which if anyone wants to look it up, that's your special prize for the episode.
We did have 5 viewers.
A whole lot
tonight,
of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, just like
their speech.
That's great. I'm glad you did that because that's funny. All right, I'm gonna be visibly reading a thing because I wrote a thing down. Honestly, not a bad movie per se. It's more of a goofy time capsule of what people at the time thought hackers were. This weird cyberpunk rave gang that was always trying to hack everything. Well, I'm sure people were like that at the time, or like these types were like that. I'm sure this movie actually spawned people who wanted to be like this, and those people are now Discord and Reddit mods. It's a fun, which we kind of went over a couple times during the review. It's a fun movie, and the pacing is fast, and with not a lot of like slow down, boring sort of like, what is the point of this? Except for those scenes that are like just scenes that sort of just move the plot forward incrementally, like that one I mentioned at the beginning where the mom's like, you should unpack, and he's like, okay, and then that's the scene. The dialogue is from another planet though, but that sort of adds to the charm of the whole thing. I wish I had watched this in 1995 because it may hold up a bit better through the lens of nostalgia, but it kind of falls flat without those rose-colored glasses. I give it a 3 out of 5, and I'm being generous, but I can see myself watching this movie again down the road to have a laugh at what people thought hacking and internet culture was in the mid-90s.
In the hacker mainframe.
Go to the mainframe and hack the planet. I give this movie a trying to hack my way through a user interface that is full motion video somehow, only come to a DOS prompt and have to do all my hacking through PowerShell.
I was going to give it that, but then I decided to go with the whole rollerblade wheels.
Oh my god, this is a good episode.
Best episode yet? Best episode you've ever done? Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean,
Yeah, it was all because of you.
Thanks, guys.
I've been writing down notes over here. Went to clip and cut, and
you were a draw. I will say tonight was one of our more successful nights. We had 4 or 5 people in the chat. We topped out at 5 people watching at the same time. You know, like this. We don't put up. These are like numbers for us. This was a good episode.
Do you think it's because people were flipping through the channels over there at Twitch and they were like, "Who's this hot guy? My god, there's a hot guy on my Twitch right now."
We never have hot. We've lots of hot.
But
women.
Then, and the other side is like we were talking about nipples at one point.
True.
So they heard nipples.
The algorithm
we gotta stick around and see what kind of nipples these guys talking about.
We should do porn movie month and see how far that gets us.
You have no idea how excited it was. How excited it was for me to see nipples in the this is in an age where it's like I would have to I'd have to watch those scrambled channels at
Blue
the end.
Nui.
And
or
like just hope that
it would
nipple
stick for a
come
second. You're like,
Yeah.
I see a nipple. I think there's sex happening right now.
Yeah, I'm like that's such a that's just a thing that doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, that was like in this era where it was like so hard to see nudity, and then and I got to just go to a movie theater and it was right there before my very eyes on future Oscar winner Angelina Jolie.
Yeah,
Angelina Jolie's like split second 3-foot fucking areola. Perfect. Will never come like that ever again. And with that, we come to the end of Hey Did You See This One for this week. For Steven and Kaylin and Mike, I'm Jason. This is always
for Jason and for Kaylin and for Mike, I am Steven.
And
For Steven, Jason, and Mike, I'm Kellen.
for how do I do this? Mike and Jason, Steven, Kaylin, and all you beautiful little babies out there, all you little how did you see this one knights, all you beautiful boys and girls and non-binary people out there, everyone out there, all there in the world. I love every single one of you. Thank you for coming out and thank you for listening to this show. How did you see this guy by me, Michael?
and hey, how did you see this one? And
Hey, how did you see this guy?
Hey,
How did you see this?
Hey! How'd you see this guy?
how'd you see this guy?
How did you see this guy?
Oh no, I lost power.
I didn't mind
I
it.
kind of liked it.
Did you see this guy?
All right. What was our names again?
someone say
Slap
something funny.
Crack and Chip Cunningsworth
Kiss
and
lips
Shit Lips
triple
and
charger,
Titty
depth
Toucher.
charger and crack slapper, and Kaylin had a good one. Wild card.
Wild card. Wild card sounds like and it might have been a pilot in like the Top Gun, one of the Top Gun movies.
Or like a G.I. Joe, like, it's Wild Card.
Oh yeah, it's Wild Card. Yeah.
He doesn't trust any race other than white.